everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show podcast, place about games, friends, getting better. My name is Ben Hansen. Thank you for being here. I'm joined by one Kyle Hilliard.
Hello, just one.
I'm joined by two Janet Garcia.
Hi.
Oh, hi. And I'm joined by three Jacob Geller. Welcome to the show, Jacob.
Three Jacob Gellers.
Four birds calling. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. We got a lot to talk about on this here show. It's kind of a grab bag new game show. You like those, right, Kyle?
Love GBNG's S's.
Have you noticed that trend, by the way? Is it Scott Ackerman that started it? Like the acronym trend as like the quick joke?
Scott Ackerman?
The point is, we're going to be talking about other games.
0% run for missed joke opportunities. Right. If you have been asking for it, we're bringing it.
Oh, dirty show.
I know Will Forte. That was like, I would listen to some interview with him where he was like, I used to do that incessantly, just make everything an acronym in every conversation. So I think he started it, but it wasn't like a public podcast thing.
I think I'm nearing my burnout on it. So if you could just never do that again, Kyle, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. But hey, on this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about As Dusk Falls. We're going to be talking about Escape Academy from I Am 8-Bit. We're going to be talking about Klonoa, the big remaster of the first two games coming out on everything. We're going to be talking about Stray because everybody on the internet wants to talk about Stray, and we've been playing Stray, and we're here to talk about it. And Leo Vader will be talking about it as well because he's here to talk about it because it's Stray, because it's about a cat. And then back after the show, we have a ton of great questions that people submitted over there on Patreon, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. We appreciate it. We're trying hard for everybody. Hey, Jacob Geller, let's get to the heart of this whole thing. What's this Princess Mononoke documentary you were talking about on Twitter?
Great question.
Thank you.
I was reading, there was some like BBC story about like the Western world wasn't ready for Princess Mononoke, and they just referenced there's a 6-hour documentary of this. What? And I said, wiki what? And I looked up, and it's in Japanese, but there's an American subtitled version that I just found on some like strange streaming site linked on like a Reddit thread, but I put that in my tweet about it. I've watched the first 2 hours of it because it's kind of in 3 parts. Yeah. It is incredible if you are as obsessed with that movie as I am. Like it's like there are like 5-minute conversations of Miyazaki and the colorist like deciding what color like someone's clothes should be when it's night, and they're like, well, it would be darker, and Miyazaki's like, yeah, but we still want it to be bright. And it's like
that's amazing.
There's a scene where he just brings the entire office to a stop, and he's just like, do dogs move their tongue when they pant? And then it's just like a bunch of animators sitting in a room being like, do dogs move their tongue when they pant? And then you get to see like the final result where it's like, actually, no, they don't move their tongues when they pant. They just kind of move their mouth.
And that's like for the wolves.
I just got this like the other day, like this art book, and it's got like a preface from Miyazaki in the front. Like I've been keeping it on my desk, just like waiting for a moment when I'm like in between doing something to read the full sort of, prologue. But yeah, that sounds incredible, man. Princess Mononoke is my answer lately for the last couple of years when people ask me my favorite movie.
I think it is the correct answer. Like, Kyle, were you there? Did you see it in theaters with us years ago when it wasn't playing in theaters? And that was just that reminder of like, I hadn't seen it for like 10 years, and seeing it on the big screen is just like, yeah, this might be the greatest movie ever made. It's really tough to argue against. I was
super late because it was like an awful winter storm.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Right as she was storming the Lady Eboshi's like castle.
Oh my God.
Which is like one of the best action sequences in movies. Period. Like I was so happy that I made it for that, but yeah. Incredible.
And it's just, this documentary is one of those things where it's just like the documentarian just seemed like he sat behind Miyazaki for like 2 years and just with a camera, just filming like every conversation. So it is, if you're not that interested in it, it would be incredibly boring. But if you want to see just like conversations about how many frames of animation a sword swing should have, it's like perfect.
By the way, Owen awesome. McCarter submitted a question on Patreon. They say, hey, MinnMax, after asking about people's favorite media/movies of the year, I finally watched RRR, and it is the best movie of the year, hands down. The songs will be stuck in my head for a long time. My only question is, why aren't more people talking about this movie? And Jacob Geller, I know you've been trying to do the Lord's work over there screaming about RRR, but can you do anything about that runtime? Because every time I want to watch it, I look at that 3 hour.
Come on, dude.
You're right.
People
You're right.
People want freaking like 12 episodes of TV where nothing happens. It's like there's an intermission in the middle of it. It's just two 1.5 hour movies.
Yeah, did you see that? I love that, Jenna, where James Cameron did that interview where he's like, oh, everyone's complaining about a 2.5 hour, 3 hour movie. Please forget about it. Have you seen these TV shows lately? And it's like, he has a point. Like, people are used to watching a lot of content at once.
Can I keep taking us off topic? I watched Avatar like all the way through yesterday.
Yeah.
Ooh, that movie's good.
Yes.
Like people,
all right.
everyone kind of makes fun of it, but it's like
I've never seen it.
What? Really, Janet?
Yeah.
It's like it's
I never
goofy
saw
and
it.
dumb, but it's great.
Janet, I don't want to blow your mind, but an acclaimed director who has made some of the best and most successful films ever made another very successful and good movie. I don't mean to blow your mind.
Though at Disney, and that's the best. That might be the best Disney ride. So
I want to go.
Yeah, people rave about that.
It's super good. It's legitimately good. It's not even just good for the Disney park, which Disney's cool in that it's like very detailed and like clean, but like the rides aren't super exciting. Like, it's not like a thrill place, but with the exception of the ride of the Banshee, the Avatar ride is incredible. I don't care what the wait time is. You need to go.
Yeah.
It is the only thing you need. That, and I guess the Haunted Mansion is also pretty dope. So there's that. But
That's not bad.
that's one.
Jacob, you need to look up, and I rarely recommend this to people, but everybody's favorite 2020 political candidate, that was running for president, Marianne Williamson. Remember, everybody was like, she's into crystals, get her. She has a podcast, and she had like an hour-long interview with James Cameron, and it's just her gushing about Avatar, and like, it is just a good insight into like that level of
Marianne
fandom.
Williamson is a perfect person to host a podcast.
I think
Do I
that's
want her to be
about
president? Right. No, but like host a podcast, sure.
Right. Yeah, we should just vote for who's the most perfect person to host a podcast. And we can use the Electoral College. I mean, any system you want just to find who is actually the best host.
Would you get a
Frank's
beer
choice,
with this
number
person?
Number 1, David Sims. Number 2.
I think you're right, because as far as I'm concerned in my life, like, podcasting has replaced conversing face to face. And so at this point, yeah, it's like, who do you want to get a beer with? That's just code for who do you want to record a podcast with? Because in the future, they're going to call talking podcasting, is my theory. And it's also the platform I'm running on. Everybody, take to the ballots. Anyways, hey.
Write me in.
Write me in,
Be
please.
good, have fun, let's go. To the ballots. To the polls.
Oh my God.
Excuse me.
Pokemon, go to the polls. Hey, this Friday, I hope you're listening to this and you're excited because Live Alive is coming out, which is a game that we were so close to doing the deepest dive on. But instead we're doing Jak and Daxter, and Janet's finishing that off this week. She's taking over hosting duties for the second half of that one, so please enjoy that. But the point is, Live Alive's coming out on Friday, and we'll be talking about it. The plan is to be talking about it in a big way next week on the podcast, and maybe even do some bonus content on top of that, because I'm very excited about that. So we're talking about new games on this episode, but we should give a shout out to the big new game on Friday. Hey, there is a game that came out recently. It's one of these old Xbox games, also on Steam, and people were yelling at us for not talking about it more, I think, on last week's episode of the podcast. There are a couple Xbox games that we missed, which is fair. I think it's because they weren't in Game Informer's Roundup, but it was stuff like, Penitent. What is the Obsidian RPG? The one that's coming up.
Is that coming out this year?
It is coming out this year.
Oh, wow.
Pentiment.
We did talk about that one a lot, though.
We did, yeah, on another episode.
No
But
one
we forgot
banged
about
it.
it. Nobody banged it because I forgot to throw it in the list. Anyways, there's a game called As Dusk Falls that's out now, out on Game Pass and everything else known to man. It's from a studio called Interior Night, I guess is how you technically read that thing out loud. And Janet, help me out with this. I played the first chapter of it. It is in the wheelhouse of some old Telltale, in the wheelhouse of, dare I say, like a Life is Strange, in the wheelhouse even of like Supermassive, but very, very low on the interactivity end of that spectrum. Is that a good way to frame what this thing is?
I would call, I mean, it's not a bad way, but I actually disagree with you on the low interactivity element. I mean, I think it's doesn't have it's not a walking sim in any level. So you're not moving around, and I guess that
control,
is why you're describing it as low interactivity. But for me personally, I always think about my activity in a choice-driven game, like a narrative choice-driven game, aka Life is Strange, those are the examples, as being the decisions I'm making and how often I'm making decisions. And I feel like I'm making decisions all the time in that game versus The Quarry, talking about Supermassive. I just started that last week. Loving the art, the cinematography in that. I think the visuals look incredible in that game. And I'm liking the plot and writing so far, but there weren't a lot of like big decisions to really be made, and that it's a very slow burn. So I will just put that caveat out there. Yes, you're not moving around. It's very point and click. You're getting little scenes and you're watching it happen, but you are making a lot of choices throughout that chapter.
Yeah. Jacob, have you seen this thing? Have you seen the look of As Dusk Falls?
Yeah. I'm sorry. My light is losing
like you just got a sub on Twitch or something.
Yeah, well, we're getting the party started.
Getting really hyped for this statement right here.
Okay.
The visuals of As Dusk Falls.
Can I tell you my big impression of that game when I went to look at it on Xbox this morning? 70 gigabytes.
Really?
I was like, maybe I'll play like the first 30 minutes of this before the podcast. And I looked at it, I was like, there is no way in hell this game is worth 70 gigabytes on my hard drive. I'm sorry to As Dusk Falls. Not a quality judgment.
You can delete games after the fact. It's not that it's locking down 70 gigabytes forever on your Xbox.
It's like that's a flight simulator.
Right.
Like
that is huge. I'm shocked to hear that.
Because I mean, I think
like, I didn't notice.
It's probably because one of the things about the game is like it's all like pictures, right? So it's like they're saving like 70 gigabytes of 4K pictures onto your hard drive. It was just very strange because I was like, this like kind of small narrative driven game.
It is weird. Like VO is going to pick up a lot of space, and this is a weird note to start with on Dusk Falls, but I like it. But like VO is going to take up a lot of space, and then maybe something with the presentation is like it's the equivalent of like large Photoshop files, because that's all the game is. It has a real visual novel look where it's kind of just panning and scanning, minimal animation for these images. The
head of the studio described it as like each scene is like painted.
Okay.
So I mean, there's light animation, but it's very light animation. Yeah. It's animation akin to like if you had a graphic novel that had like some light animation on it where like the panel moved or something. It's like that level of not a lot of animation. So yeah, it is shocking to hear that it's so large. I'm also shocked that I didn't notice, but I guess I don't have a lot on my Series X right now. So I didn't, the classic you can't do this did not pop up on mine, which is probably why I didn't notice that it was so large.
I mean, so it's like I saw the trailer for this during the Xbox show. It was one of those where they devoted like a lot of time to it, you know, where it felt like the trailer was like 5 minutes long. And I guess it was just like, it's entirely story based. And in the trailer, the voice acting was like really not hitting. But I'm curious if that is just because it didn't play well in a trailer and not, you know, necessarily the game.
The first chapter, at least, I like the voice work. There's one thing, though. So, you know, the mouths aren't moving and everything. So these are real people that they took pictures of, and then they're stylizing and putting it in the game and animating. And I think because of that, it's not like they're doing full performance capture. So I'm trying to figure out, and Janet, you might know, how much they're mixing and matching voice talent versus just the actual actors they took pictures of on the set. Because there's some people, like kind of the dad character, who looks like Alex Van Aken from Game Informer, but his voice is like too good looking for his. Wait, I guess that's offensive to Alex Van Aken. I just feel like it's like a weird disconnect between the voice and the character.
I'm still hung up on you being like, this old grandpa sounds pretty hot, right?
Not the grandpa, the dad, the middle-aged guy. The voice is like seductive. Maybe it's confusing. Maybe it's mixing and matching, and maybe this is the way reality should work.
Is what I'm hearing.
Some
I am with you.
Sound hotter than they look, and obviously this is all subjective.
Look, we're all podcasters.
I didn't hear the dad and go, me oh my, you know, personally. But if it did that for you, Ben, like that's fair and fine.
I chose the me oh my option when it popped up on the screen in that QuickTime event. Yeah. The VO, it's not bugging
like dad
me
or daddy, am I right?
Yeah, no kidding. It's a game that I think it's interesting that the studio is French, so it's a little bit like that first Life is Strange, right? Where like Don't Nod is taking a French perspective on a very American focused story in the American Southwest here.
Dream game.
I guess you're right. It doesn't feel as disconnected as those two examples, you know. But it's one of those things where I wrapped up that first chapter and was like, okay, kind of, you know, you could say minimal interaction or not moving around necessarily. How engaging could it be? But like by the end of it, it's like, okay, this got me. I'm actually invested in these choices and what's happening here. Because it seems like there's a fair bit of branching happening. But Janet, I don't know how far you got and if you have more insight into how much flexibility there is there.
Yeah, I'm only into chapter 1. I played it by myself with my brother. And then, full transparency, I did the Kind of Funny had a like crossover event with Xbox and As Dusk Falls, like for the launch party, and they also have like sponsored content running this week. I also got pulled into that very late, so like I don't know, take that for what you will if you care about that information, but
I think you should
share that out there, because I also played it with like 100 people on stage so I'll get to that part later. But as far as just like what I thought of the game, I really enjoyed the drama of it. I will say personally, I was not a fan of the art style and direction when I first started it.
Yeah.
It felt very jarring. And it felt kind of awkward in some spots because like they let you sit in moments but when you're sitting in a moment, but there's nothing moving, it's a little awkward. Like when you first start the game, there'll be like these long pauses and I'm like, oh, that combination really took me out of it when I first booted it up. But once I like kind of got over that and embraced like, okay, this is the vibe they're going for visually. I love the decisions. I like the drama of it all. They do some fun cutting back and forth between these different groups of characters. And then, light spoilers, like there might be some overlap in like their experiences, right, on what's going on. So I was all in on the drama and the decisions. So that made me like warm up to the art style. Like after a while, I didn't care about the art direction they did, but personally when I first got into it, I was like, don't know how I feel about this. And then as far as the branching though, I will say I was very impressed by that.
Nice.
And showing you all these different narrative levels you can go to, and it's the most impressed I've been from a flowchart like that since I played Detroit Become Human, which granted, again, lots of criticisms of that game, but I think narratively in terms of how they structure the choices and the variety there, and also the the visuals of that game and the music of that game. There's a lot of things that are good about that game. There are also things I don't like about it. But
absolutely,
yeah.
So you hinted at this. I'm very curious on a couple aspects of it. The multiplayer angle, like you can use your phone and you can like vote in a group on what's happening. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, you can play with up to 8 people, I believe, locally, and you can use controller or your phone. I admittly have not tried using my phone, so I can't speak to how well that works, but you basically all pick, and then whatever gets the most votes wins. And you also have an override option. So if the 4 of us were playing together, and I don't know, stay in the house wins, I can say, oh, override, we're going with my decision. And then you could also override my override. So it can get pretty funky.
Do you have like limited overrides, or anyone can override? Okay, all right, that makes sense.
You can set it.
It's like, what's the point of voting if everyone can override all the time? But that makes sense. It's limited.
I often ask myself, what's the point of voting here? But anyway, that's a larger problem. That's a larger problem in the country about voting. But as far as the game, like you can set it. I think it defaults to 1 or 3. I'm not sure what it caps out at, but it is a limited thing. And then they also have Twitch integration, the way Life is Strange has done this for a while, like Square Enix has done this with their games, where you can have Twitch basically play with you, where players vote in the chat. And then same deal, you can also override those decisions. So I played on stage with 3 other people from the team and from Xbox, and then also everyone that was in the audience at the Fonda Theater in LA. So
was that a thrill, Janet? I just saw pictures of it and it looked very exciting to like be in front of a huge crowd playing a video game with Xbox.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like I feel like when I stream, I'm very much like, it's not that different from when I play by myself. The only difference is people answer when I talk aloud. But it was interesting to have like the energy of a crowd, and especially for a game where it's like choice driven. And then it was that thing where I played through it once, so I didn't want to like do I pick the same stuff? Do I pick something different?
Sure.
But I had fun with it overall, and it was cool playing off of like the crowd's energy. It was the first time I played a game on stage in front of people, and it's probably the chillest game you can play in front of people because you're just clicking on choices. I'm like, how badly can I play this? Like no one can. It's like I'm opening, on E3 stage, like the first build of this, and I'm like, oh, the Wiimotes aren't syncing. It could have been way more stressful. So
do you think? Well. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, so please stop me if I am. But do you think MinnMax is blowing it by not trying to do big, weird game collaboration things like Kind of Funny is? Because that seems like one of those things that's like, God, that feels like another level. But if we're striving to be a bigger organization, maybe we should make those weird partnerships for events like this.
I mean, I think there's always, like for me, I find that really appealing, and I'd love to do stuff like that. I think it just depends on what, again, this is kind of getting very meta, but like, what is your magic wand situation for the company? Is it just this, but with more money? Is it this, but with more people?
Well, it's kind of like
having that.
Yeah, it's this, but if Kyle would stop turning his camera off and on. That's kind of like my ideal version of MinnMax.
I'm like checking all my cables. I'm squeezing USB cables closer together? I don't know.
Everything's fine for us.
Yeah, it just depends. I mean, it was like really cool to do. But like there are also people that like aren't as interested in doing kind of like streaming entertainment style content. I think Kind of Funny very much lives between both of those, where the podcast has like more formal review content, but then there's also like sponsored stuff, which sometimes people want a wider separation between those things. So it just depends on what you want. I just like personally for me as a creator, I like anything that involves me playing games and talking about those games with a preference towards podcasting and editorial content but I like streaming too. So yeah, I'll do whatever.
You're so focused. You're like, it was a Jay-Z who said, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman."
I never in my life thought you would quote Jay-Z to me ever. Am I dreaming right now?
But I feel like that is how you approach your content creation. You're so focused and so militant about everything. It's inspirational. You're on it.
I can't believe that you even. I'm shocked to hear you reference
Well,
this.
look, I'm full of surprises. Turn off the entire stream accidentally for the video version. The point is, as Dusk Falls, I might keep playing. I'm playing on Steam Deck, and it's weird. It's the first Steam Deck game that's forced me to use like the mouse controls, like the little touchpad thing. So I'm getting a real hardware thrill, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of fun to like have to use this thing, and it's not clunky because it's basically just, hey, click on the clock over here, then go over here and click on this, and sometimes it's kind of timed. But as Dusk Falls, everybody, what's that?
I plan to finish it. What about you? Are you?
Yeah, I think so. If I just want like a relaxing story-based experience on Steam Deck, I think it's a good way to go. Yeah. So as Dusk Falls, everybody. Also, speaking of a weird overlap here, we have Escape Academy, which, full transparency, is co-published by I Am 8-Bit, who's a big supporter of ours, and specifically, they're supporting us in a way so we plug the podcast during the ad, or plug the game during the promoted slot on the podcast every week. But if it's any consolation, with a grain of salt and all that stuff, is like, if we didn't like this game, we wouldn't talk about it in addition to that slot. But Kyle, you finished Escape Academy?
Yeah.
You escaped.
Hell yeah.
I escaped. It's I ended up playing, I think it was like 2 sittings. My wife and I ended up playing through it, which is like,
that's fun.
Kind of unique because even though my wife and I both play a lot of video games, we really don't play co-op games together. It's rare where one sticks out for us and we get into it together. But this one we played through and finished, and I liked it. It's funky. I think one of the things I like about it is like it has kind of a stupid premise, but I sort of enjoy the story of it. It's like, wow, you're really good at escape rooms, so we're gonna whisk you off to like the Hogwarts equivalent of doing escape rooms, and it's like, I don't think I'm like gaining any practical experience by solving these puzzles, but I like that there's a story. Is school supposed
to give you practical experience? Because I have some people to call.
The idea, but but there's like, there's characters, there's twists. It's like every bit of dialogue is like tweet length, and everyone only says like 3 things between the puzzle rooms. It's just enough to give you like a little incentive to like have some context for why you're in the kitchen trying to, turn off the gas and stuff like that.
Well, so, I think it's important too, just for giving you like some downtime to relax. Because I've only played maybe first like hour and a half or so of Escape Academy. I'm enjoying it, but it's really stressing me out. So like when you're jumping into all these puzzles and that timer is ticking down, and I know they do some little cheats and stuff where they'll boost the time every once in a while, but still. But
also, ultimately, it doesn't matter. Like even if the timer runs out, you just extend another 5 minutes, because like there were a lot of times where we were like, literally we knew the solution, we were moving things around, and then the timer went out, and like it's like, crap, give us another 5 minutes, right? And then it took us like 2 seconds to finish the puzzle.
Playing it, my big thought is like, why hasn't anybody done this in a big way yet? It's really shocking. So Coin Crew Games, they're the developer here, their last game, according to their site, was Hot Wheels King of the Road in the arcade, which Sarah Pozorski might have worked on in some capacity. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's like,
how many conflicts of interest can we
I know, that's really the challenge. As long as we're being transparent, heads up. But it's like, how has nobody gone for like a full just digital version of escape rooms? Because they can do cool stuff in here that they couldn't do in a real life escape room. Like even one of the early levels, it's like slowly filling with water and you're like climbing up. And it's like, oh, turns out there's no risk of drowning in a game. So you can really go nuts with some of these designs.
I guess I haven't touched this yet. I picture just like a game where you like click on everything in a room to see if it does something. Like how do they avoid that being like the thing that you're doing?
you can only interact with certain things, right? You can look at everything, and maybe you can click on something and it has a little bit of dialogue, but it's like very clear if something is an interactable switch or something like that. And a lot of the game is like noticing a code or some kind of pattern on a wall and translating that into like some sort of device somewhere else, which is actually, that ends up being a big benefit of co-op play, is like someone can just stare at a wall while you go over to the other side and like enter the code that the person is looking at on the wall.
Yeah, it is nice. But even like playing by yourself, I think the UI, they do a good job of making it so it's not too much of a pain in the ass just to like comb through the environment. Like you can go through your inventory and like pin stuff up so it's in the corner of your screen as you're walking around. So if you need that code up or something like that, so it's not too much of a hassle to play by yourself. And like I'm doing the controls, and then my wife is like shouting at ideas, and that's like a soft version of co-op, but I think it's also super fun. Which, by the way, people watching at the Backstage Pass tier, watching us live, Shazira says, excuse me, they have done this game before. It's called Escape Simulator. It was a game that came out last year, and apparently it has a bunch of community maps. So I'm sorry that one escaped my eye, but apparently people that one on Steam.
I remember also playing a lot of weird Flash games that were like
that's what I was going to say. Kind of almost like hidden object puzzle type things where you're like, oh, you put the seed in the flower and then the flower grows and does a thing.
Yeah.
I assume this is on a different level than that.
It's a little more sophisticated.
You're walking around a 3D environment, and like picking up things, and so that's sort of the big difference. It does definitely feel, and I say this in like the nicest way possible. It feels like, it feels like a first shot at this type of game. Like it's kind of buggy, it's kind of muddy. It doesn't really feel great to control, but I think almost all the puzzles were well designed and interesting. There were very few that I were like, I didn't really like that puzzle. It's like one of those games where it was like, I was like, oh, that was good, I like that. But if and when they announce Escape Academy 2, like I'll be very excited, because I think it would be like an opportunity to really blow it out and do a lot more interesting and maybe push that budget up a little bit.
Yeah, and normally I'm not a big puzzle guy, but there's something about a game like this that's a little more compelling, where the puzzles are so self-contained. You don't have to wander that far to find the solution. It's like, especially early on, it's like, okay, there's basically a couple rooms here. The answer is somewhere in these rooms. It's so much better than something where it's like, oh God, how far do I have to backtrack to find an item to maybe get this? It's nice. It's almost Witness-esque in that way, right? Yeah. Just this tiny thing.
It's like if you're playing a Zelda dungeon and like you walk into a room and it locks behind you.
It's such a relief. It's such a relief. Yep.
You're like, okay, I know whatever I need to do is in here,
Yeah. Totally. And it's a fun game where like they give you a heads up. I think they have a note in the beginning about like, hey, you should have a pad and like a pen and paper, because you're going to need to write down some stuff. And so any game that is propelling you to scribble down some stuff, I think is a fun way to engage with it. But
they mention that outright too, because sometimes with the puzzle games like that, I almost feel like writing it down is like not cheating, but sort of. Like I've definitely used my phone and taken pictures of stuff where I'm like, I don't want to have to reopen. Mm-hmm. Like I get what you want me to do here. I don't want to do that part. I want to just be able to save the answer in my pocket.
Yeah. But yeah, Escape Academy, it's on Game Pass now, and then it's also on Steam and Epic Game Store and all that stuff. But yeah, if you like even The Witness, you should check it out, especially if you have Game Pass, because I think it's
not super long too, if that's an incentive for people.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody. Speaking of not super long, which is an incentive for people, there's this game, everybody, that you all need to hear about, and it's called Klonoa. Have you heard the good word about Klonoa, everybody? Specifically, Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series.
Yeah, the actor that plays Chandler Bing in Friends. Huge. He's been talking about it for years.
Wait, is that the one that you're obsessed with? That he shouted out Klonoa?
No, he shared all the time. Anyone brings up Klonoa.
Wait, is it in some interview? Was it like a Fallout New Vegas interview or something?
No, it was a tweet. It was a tweet.
Matthew Perry just said he loves Klonoa.
He said that he's like when the remake came out for the Wii. He was like, I'm playing the new Klonoa with my pants off. That's how much I love it.
That's a little scary.
It's not a great tweet.
Here we go. So to quote the great Matthew Perry, many of you have asked what Klonoa game I am playing. It's the new one on the Wii. I'm at level 6. I play with my pants around my ankles. Well, that's like, weird.
This sounds like just like a Friends level joke. Where they're like, he's on level 6, I guess.
Here it actually checks out. The one with the Pac-Man hat. It's a Klonoa and Friends joke for everybody, so we hope you're on board for where we're going with this. Speaking of weird jokes about Klonoa, have you ever seen the old magazine ads for Klonoa, Kyle?
Were they unreasonably? Were they sexy for no reason?
Oh yeah, you better believe it. Well, they have to sell a platformer that's like a cute rabbit with hands for ears. So there's only one angle to take in the 90s, and it's let's sex this baby up. And so there's one where it's just like a black and white shot of like this couple making out.
Oh my God, I'm looking at this now.
Yeah, look at it. And okay, can you read it, what they're saying, Jacob Geller?
It says, okay.
Can you send a link to this?
So the man is saying, but Susan, I have Klonoa. And then the woman who's about to kiss him says, hey, baby, I want Klonoa.
Which I'm not getting until just this moment. Is the idea that it sounds like an STD? Is that the joke?
I think so. I mean, can I tell you what I think it sounds like? Every time I hear this name, I think cloaca, which is the one hole that like birds have.
So in your version,
which is not a good.
But in your version of this ad, then, like the wife or the girlfriend saying, "Hey, baby, I want a cloaca," so she'll kiss him and get one. Is that where you're going with this?
It's so funny because this is like the epitome of like, and I mean this in a positive way, like a game for children. It's like colorful and bubbly and like
all contraire, Kyle. So
okay.
I've been playing this a lot on my Steam Deck. It's a very fun platformer. This is the remaster of the game from 1997, then the second one for PS2. I think 2001 is when that came out.
Real
You're
quick.
right. It is complicated.
Is it the Wii version?
It is.
Remake? Okay, so the original PS1 version is like not on here.
No, so the PS1 version was remade for the Wii, and then that's the version that they remastered, technically.
Okay, cool. All right, I wasn't sure if they remade it again. That's what I was confused about. Okay.
Yeah, so it's cute, colorful as all can be, and I've been playing it on my Steam Deck, and I rolled credits on Klonoa 1. It's pretty short. It was like 5 hours or so, but really loved it. I really had a great time playing through that game. But I had heard whispers of people talking about like, Klonoa, it's more emotional than you think. It'll really get you. And I was like, what is all this crap? There is a moment in this game nearing the end that I guess I won't spoil it, but you can probably read between the lines.
Yeah, please don't.
It is the equivalent of like if you were just playing Mario Galaxy and then suddenly somebody popped up from behind the bushes with a machine gun and started unloading on Rosalina. It's just like, what? What is happening? It is so confusing and jarring. And then the ending is also just surreal and sad in a way that I did not see coming, despite, decades of murmurs about this.
Oh my God, this is great.
That's exciting.
I played the first couple levels and I was like, yeah, I'd played it before. I've never beaten it, but I played the remake. I played the original, the first couple levels here and there. And I was like, this is great. This is cute. This reminds me of like Nights into Dreams a little bit.
Oh, sure.
I probably won't beat it though. But now you've kind of like reinvigorated me where I'm like, I think I need to see this thing to the end. I think I need to jump back in and finish it.
I would love for you to get to the end. Cause it's bizarre. Janet, you said you're watching your brother play this thing?
Yeah, I've been too busy to make time for it, but I've like been looking forward to it for a while because I love platformers, and this is one I had missed growing up. And funnily enough, I forgot the name of the organization offhand, but I spoke with at a girls' summer camp like last summer, and I was talking about like my job and what I do, and the kids it's like a coding oriented, game oriented camp, and one of the kids was like, "Have you ever played Klonoa? Like, it's really good. It's like such a good game." And I was like, "Why is this like kid is out here schooling me on this like really old game?" And then it's old even like for me, and they're like 10 to 20 years younger than me. So I was like, and I forgot her name at this point, but I was thinking of her the whole time when I saw this thing. I'm like, I'm gonna honor this child's legacy.
Hell yeah.
But I'm seeing my brother dip into it, and it just looks so fun and playful and joyous, even with you saying that it turns crazy dark.
I mean, I do think I don't want to overhype
fun,
it, but
well, now it's too late. My hype levels are set. If this doesn't have Last of Us level of carnage,
if someone doesn't jump out of a bush and shoot another character as you promised.
Keep playing.
And does it have like a what's like the thing? Like what makes it different than just like Mario? In terms of the gameplay?
Yeah, might I interest you in a thing called wind
Jacob?
bullets?
Why would you ask such a question?
I'm not as experienced as that kid at Janet's camp.
So
I'm laughing because that is a perfect question.
It's a fair question. What if I told you that Klonoa's ears are like hands, and they have something called wind bullets, where they can like shoot something from their head and they can grab enemies? It's a lot about grabbing enemies and using those to like chain jumps. And then might I also interest you in the fact that Klonoa has like a Yoshi-esque hover jump of like with like that last big boost, which is very satisfying on any platformer. And then may I also interest you in the fact that this is 1997 and their big hook was clearly 2.5D, baby. Like, it's a lot of surprising amount of like branching paths in the levels, and then you're jumping into the foreground, the background. It's early 3D jank, but it's surprisingly playable. And that's kind of the beauty of it. Like, just playing through this thing, it's by the way, it turns out it's the same director as like the Ninja Gaiden series, and Mighty Bomb Jack and stuff. Also, the director went on to produce Muscle March on the Wii, so clearly a very talented developer.
When's that remake coming?
Bring us Muscle March! But that's the thing that I love about this game is there's something really sweet about this kind of B-tier PlayStation game getting the remaster treatment, because you ever see, like, I think they have sites, I think I've seen this somewhere, where it's like you can send in your child's drawing and they'll make like a stuffed animal out of the drawing, and it's just like, what is this? It feels a little bit like that, of like early 3D, we're trying our best just to make some sort of enemy design. We don't really know what it is. It's like 4 polygons, go. And now when you have to remaster that, everything just has like this really funky art style that defies any convention, but it's really captivating in its own way.
It's like this Jumping Flash is probably another one of those, right? And like Knights, it's like a very hard to define point in 3D gaming where everything felt like it was coming from a dream.
Yes.
Like Nights into Dreams is literally about children dreaming. So that's like very thematic and consistent. But this has that same kind of feeling where it's just everything's a little off, but like compelling. It's cool.
It has like almost Link's Awakening surreal vibes at time, with like the dialogue in particular. It's like, I don't know what you weirdos are talking about, but I'm all here for it. And there's even like, it's so abstract and different because it's such an early sense of design in 3D that like some of the boss fights, they just have like pop-ups at the beginning with text like, hey, so there's kind of like a glowing triangle that's going to be going towards you, and you just have to like hit the right side of the triangle. That'll send you to the second phase, which is the light realm. And there's going to be a purple rectangle, and you have to jump on that 3 times. But they just have to like tell you like, look, we don't understand this design either. Just do this, and you can beat the final boss. Have a good time. So Klonoa, everybody. Technically, Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series.
One more magazine advertisement for Klonoa?
Yeah.
Quite possibly the only thing weirder than your sister.
What?
And if I
can we do like, we need to make this a new show plus.
When
like,
paired with the other highly sexual one, it's really weird. I think this one is targeted at kids, but it's like the fact that it's like, here's 2 adults making out, baby, I want Klonoa, and then quite possibly the only thing weirder than your sister.
It makes sense. It was a simpler, better time. Jenna, we did have a show for New Show Plus that people voted on one time where it was like magazine memories, where we'd go back through old magazines. And I thought for sure that was going to be a slam dunk. And just like read them and show off the old ads and stuff. And it didn't win, but maybe we could bring it back at some point. Klonoa, everybody, it's available, God, I believe on everything, including Switch, but I'm loving playing it on Steam Deck. So I'll probably keep plowing through with Klonoa too, which is fun to see the jump to. All right. Hey, we should talk about this game called Stray, which is actually the hot new release of the week. But to do that, we need to freaking open the door and put a cup of milk and see if anybody comes to play. You know what I mean? Leo Vader. Welcome into our home, Leo. Come on in, close the door, enjoy yourself.
It's cozy in here.
Janet has a cat. Janet loves her cat. I think if I had to like measure love for a cat though, Leo, I think you might be the biggest cat lover in the batch. Leo or Janet, will you stand for this? Will you stand for this cat slander?
I don't think. Oh, another cat. I don't know what you're basing that on. And I feel like the fact that you even want to compare our individual loves for a cat speaks to how disconnected you are from the cat community. I would never question Leo's love for his cat or my own. I don't want to compare them. We both love our cats.
This is a King Solomon question where our answer betrays the truth. Any answer except it's an unfair question means we don't truly love our cats.
That's right. I guess Kyle also has a cat.
I have 3.
What?
Wow.
All right, so Kyle loves it 3 times as much.
Should I say meow?
You should.
Not one missed joke opportunity.
Right in, we dare you. We frickin' dare you, community. Find a missed joke. They're not here. Eventually, the podcast just evolves into being nothing but rapid fire, the sloppiest puns we can get out there, just so nobody writes in about missed jokes. Anyways, hey, Stray, everybody. It is out on PC. This sucker's out on PlayStation. It's also available if you have the PlayStation Plus Extra account. It's a free giveaway there, free in quotes. But then the kicker is you get a free 7-day trial. where you can try out the higher tiers on PS Plus. So technically you could play this game for free for the next 7 days if you remember to cancel your stuff. You know, all that funky nonsense. But Stray, we're talking about
Did
cats.
you mention Steam also? It's also on Steam.
Yeah, also on Steam. There we go. Good to go. But yeah, Stray, this is a game where you play as a cat. If you remember, it's been in a couple showcases where you're a cat roaming around, but looked like some sort of robot-focused post-apocalyptic city environment. It was a little bit confusing exactly what was happening there, but it's from
Cyberpunk. Just
Cyberpunk Cats. It's from Blue 12 Studio. I've set this sucker up enough. It's now time to let this cat roam free. Let the opinions.
Let the cat out of the bag.
Damn
if only
it!
there was a term for releasing a cat that
Now
we
it
could
feels
lean
like
on.
you're trying to
Look
miss
what the
jokes,
cat dragged in. Stray, a good game.
Yeah, this is how you get new Patreon supporters, Janet, is you just set up missed joke opportunities one after the other. It's kind of my specialty is missing jokes.
Cat's got your tongue, Leo? You don't have anything to say about this game?
Oh my god.
Hey, everybody.
Why did the cat cross the road? Somebody write in with an answer to that.
Right. Hey,
We'll set you up. You bring us the punchline.
is this game good or not?
Jacob opened with this is a good game.
Okay.
So I don't know why you're yelling.
That's
I don't know
fair.
why you're taking this tone with us. But yeah, I love this game. I think it's great. Kyle, what's your read on it? Leo?
I like it. I'm only a couple hours in. I like it a lot. There's like, you get the backpack and the inventory and stuff. It complicates itself about an hour in, and that's cool too. But I would have played a full game just as the naked cat hopping around. I was loving that.
By the way, that real quick, that backpack sequence is like, that really like locked it in for me.
I think that's the single funniest moment of a game this year.
Like, so you get a backpack and the controls become like difficult for a second as the cat like struggles and doesn't like the backpack.
Oh,
and they
fun.
eventually get used to it, and then you play it normally again. But like if you've owned a cat and you've tried to put anything on a cat ever,
It's like they lose all the bones in their body. Like they just start like slinking around, and it's like, yeah, I was playing it with my partner who's also a big like cat person, and it was like, oh, they know cats. Like at that point, which like obviously they know cats, like they made a game all about a cat, but it was just like, it was such a specific, like, this is not related to the game. It's not something you'll be doing. It's just like, this is a funny cat behavior and we know everyone will like to watch it.
And we did.
Yeah, even early on, I mean, I'm maybe 40 minutes into the game or so, and I'm liking it a lot more than I expected. Like Janet, we did New Show Plus this week was supposed to be us streaming the game, but we ended up just looking at a bunch of cat pictures from the community, which were very cute and all that stuff. But you sold me on that when you're describing it. You're like, oh, it's kind of just like a platformer, I guess, with like really easy puzzles. I was like, okay, I am very on board with that style of game. Let's just cruise through, learn a little bit about the world, and not beat our head against any huge challenges here. And that's ultimately what it is, Jacob Geller?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested. Maybe Ben, you can answer this. It's like, I feel like it's really a game where it's like, if you don't find the act of like watching a cat do things inherently kind of funny and interesting, I'm not sure how much you would like this game. Well, but it's like, I like watching just like a cat walk around. I think is like, that's just funny. And so it's like the whole game I think is pretty good, even if what you're doing is like not the most, mind-blowing stuff.
I think that's what
every time you knock something over and watch it fall down, it's a thrill. You get why your cat does it.
Almost word for word, like from the stream, like if y'all end up watching that VOD, I mentioned that, Jacob. I mentioned that, like, if you have a cat and you like cats, like, it's fun just looking at a cat. I can watch, like, my cat Bruce is a very lazy, inactive, easily scared cat. She doesn't do anything. She just sits there. But I'll look at her and I'm like, I freaking love this cat. And it's like, why? She's just sitting there. But there's like the different way she sits, when she sits up like a person, like when she walks around, when I see her stand way back. And the only time she runs is when she hears her food machine go, but she sprints. When she does that gallop, that's a run, but it's too slow because that's how cats run, but she's a slow cat. So she just slowly like kind of scampers around. I think this is such like a love letter to cats and like people that like cats. And for me, I also just love games where I can mess around in an environment. And I think while Stray doesn't have, crazy, elaborate, interesting puzzles or super, well constructed or intriguing combat.
Yeah.
I think what it does is all the design is in service to, hey, it's already fun to mess around like a cat. As Leo said, like if you were the naked cat, it'd still be pretty fun. But they're like, what if we added in stuff that like incentivized you meowing, incentivized you scratching, and I think that's the brilliance of this game and what makes it so good.
Wait, so how are they doing that? From what I've seen, it's like, oh, I meowed and then a string of lights was lighting up. Like that's as far as I got. But it just builds on that idea of it won't be a boring game after a while because they're layering on just more intriguing, I don't know, puzzle-like systems?
I don't know about that. I think it's more just, it's like sometimes you scratch at a door and a door opens, but it's like the scratching at a door is something that a cat does. So like that's fun to do.
And simple things like there's the musician guy you bring sheet music to, and you can sleep next to him, and when you meow there, he'll just look over at you and his face will become like a heart. Or
that's cute.
He'll just love you.
Something I really like about it, which feels like a very, it's like kind of a core principle that they wrote down about this game, is like the cat is very much just a cat. Like it's not like, it really doesn't seem to have much, like, you could imagine that the cat knows what's going on and has like a motivation to do the plot events of the game. Yeah. But like in my head, it was just like, it's just doing these things because it's a cat and the things are happening. And like early on in the game, you start with like some other cats and you get separated. And there's like a scene where the other cats are kind of watching you, like fall into the city.
Yeah.
But what's funny about that is that the cats are not doing like a cartoon, like, no expression. Totally. They're just kind of like, we're cats. Yep. Like we're watching you, it's like, you can kind of imagine they're sad, but like, there's not really any exaggeration onto just like what a cat can do in real life.
I'm with you. I think that's really compelling. Do you think is it a weird disconnect? Because it's like, well, as a player, what I want to do is understand this society. But I understand the character that I'm playing, what they want to do is
we want to
scratch.
be a cat.
Oh,
as the player, I want to be the cat.
Oh, okay.
Fun.
So there's a disconnect here.
Unearth some of the mystery of the city, but like at the end of the day, I'm here to be a cat. And like again, Jacob, I think you nailed it with the cat's just a cat, and I think that works in service of the realism of the game. Obviously, it's not necessarily realistic because that cat, that's the world's smartest cat if it was doing all that. But I remember like texting Bless and Greg from Kind of Funny after I finished it because I loved the game. I was like, this is really good, right? And they're like, they weren't so hot on it. Really? And Greg's like, there's just no emotion to this cat. And I'm like, of course there's no emotion to the cat, Greg. It's a cat. And like, it's a different kind of like versus a dog or something else. Like if something bad happened to me, if I fell down, there's all those videos online, when you fall down, the dog comes and the dog's crying, the dog wants to know what happens. If I got shot, Bruce would get upset because she heard a loud sound.
Right.
That's it.
And then
it's
eat your
take a few
face
days before
within
she
minutes.
eats me if the apocalypse
Hell
comes.
Yeah.
It's nothing personal. I do feel like my cat loves me. I feel like my cat shows me love in the way that a cat does, and so does the stray cat. You can nuzzle up with people, you can meow, but at the end of the day, it's just a cat. Ain't a thought behind those eyes.
It's an orange cat, which we all know, one brain cell.
That's right. That's why we love them. And to that point, I was almost disappointed that you kind of end up talking to robots and learning, like understanding them, being told what to do by them. Because I like loved just exploring and finding new things that way. And I do love the way it's designed. It feels like I'm literally just exploring. Like I'm finding the nooks and crannies and being rewarded for that the way a cat is with new smells.
Is it does it give you any Team Eco vibes there, Jacob?
Kind of. I would say it's actually significantly more verbose than those games. Like there's not much subtlety in the story. The story that is not just you are a cat, because you do have kind of a little robot companion that has like more concrete motivations, and it just like says what it's thinking and what it wants to do. There's not much kind of like reading between the lines. But there are certainly, it's like if you just like kind of the feeling of an environment, like the thing other than just being a cat that's really good about this game is like the city is cool, and the city is like really kind of thoughtfully constructed, and especially the first level, and honestly maybe my biggest criticism of the game is just the first level is the best level, because it's like the city that you start in is so vertical and there are so many ways like up and down and through different buildings and stuff, and it's like that type of stuff. You know, I talked about how much I liked Citizen Sleeper, which is another game about existing in a city, and even though they play totally differently, they kind of give similar vibes of just like, here is the feel of a place separate from the people or robots that live here.
Yeah, I definitely want to go back and play more. I think it was like, it's tough to get a read because so many people on the internet are so gaga over cats. And so every time this game was shown, everyone's like, Stray, 10 out of 10, most anticipated. I was like, but is the game going to be good? Or do people just want to talk about how much they love their own cat? And like trying to decipher that on Twitter has been a challenge, but actually jumping into it a little bit, it's like, okay, I think this holds up. This is a compelling experience.
And it's such, like Jenna was talking about with the attention to detail of the animations, it's like, if it's going to be a game for cat lovers, it's like, it delivers. Like, they know cats, and there's so many beautiful animations. Like, I don't truly care if it's for other people, because it's like it's like the best game a cat lover could hope for in that way, and the experience of being a cat.
Yeah. It's better than Nintendo Dogs and Cats?
Oh, yeah.
That's a very transactional relationship.
It's a different Here, one thing I like wrote in my review, because like I did one for like my own outlet, Pen of Pixels, is that one of the things that really makes this shine, it gives you because it's a video game, it gives you the rare opportunity to be both the observer of a cat and to be the cat.
Right.
So it's like the fun of watching my cat Bruce, that's kind of 10x'd here, because I can be that cat and I get to watch. It's like you're doing all of it. So it's so immersive in that way. And I like it's very like walking sim plus, and I love that kind of game. So for me, it's like, okay, it's checking boxes left and right. And I just think it does a fantastic job at executing on its vision. I think it could have gotten away with a lot less, you know, because again, it is a cat, and it's very like easily memed and easily seen as cute. But I play a lot of cute games, and cute's not enough. Like, I will say that when a wholesome game comes out and it's not fire, people do talk about it and do deconstruct it. And yeah, I think this really nails what it's going for. So I really loved my time with it.
It's weird to say the story, but like the lore holds up. That's actually compelling going through this thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's like it won't blow your mind, but like I think it ends in a pretty satisfying place. And like the vibes of the city remain good, which feels more important than like the minute to minute plot of the game.
Right.
It's what I heard someone, it was like on a podcast or something, someone was like complaining about modern movies and stuff, and they were like, that they just tell the same stories, there's no new stories. And I was playing this and I was kind of like, if you're complaining about that, you're probably just like not seeking out new stories, because like I can't think of like another story where like I am a cat in a underground city where humans have been dead for thousands of years and robots sort of like deify humans of the past, and I'm just sort of trying to exist in that. Like,
it's Gato Roboto, Kyle.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up Gato Roboto in terms of Jacob talking about how you're like a cat, just a cat doing things. I feel like that game does that a little better, where the human keeps commanding you, but after every time he's like, hey, go do this mission for me, he's like, I have no idea if you're listening to me. I don't know if this is coming through. I'm just going to keep talking to myself and hope that I get out of this precarious situation. But yeah.
Just to lightly push back on your interpretation of the plot, Kyle, I feel like this plot has very much been done before, because maybe not the specifics of the trappings of being a cat in the kind of city, but it's a classic, we're here and we want to get out and other people don't want us out. Like, I feel like that's been done a lot of times.
Sure, yeah.
And that element is like not mind-blowing. Like, oh, you're trying to get out and there's forces working against you. But what I like about the story of the game is the writing and the presentation. I think there's some, while Stray doesn't ever fully unpack a lot of the things it brings up, things like capitalism, things like history repeating itself, stuff like, policing and how policing can be harmful to the citizens it's allegedly trying to protect.
Jesus.
It doesn't really unpack that, but it does gesture enough at it that I'm like, oh, there's some kind of intriguing layers here that I wasn't expecting. And I think the writing can be really dark and charming at times. There's a moment where your little droid friend B12 is like, oh, all the humans are dead. Like, you see graffiti, it says like rip humans, and it's like, oh, all the humans are dead. I wonder what it's like to be dead. And it's like, oh snap, I wasn't thinking y'all would like hit any lines that would I don't know, make me think a little bit or lightly move me, but it has that. There's a scene where you can interrupt a game of dominoes, and one of the robots is like, oh, I've won like a kajillion games to 3. Don't tell anyone, but I was programmed to win this game. Like, that's hilarious. And I liked moments like that.
It's the perspective, I think, that makes it feel so new to me. Yeah. Like being a cat. Why, like, because this would have been an interesting game even without a cat, but like putting it like you in the sort of role of the cat is what makes it feel sort of different and unique.
I think, I think it gets away with being a little cliche by the fact that like there is a disconnect built into the story where it's kind of, you know, it's like, oh, my friend is going through some crazy stuff right now, but I am a cat. So like, you know, it's, you can kind of decide for yourself how much the cat actually cares about what everything else is going on. And it's like, it can be just totally like background noise. If you're not interested in it, you don't have to care. And if you are, it's cool.
Yeah.
Especially because the puzzles are like running away from monsters the right way or knocking something off a shelf and then you get a new item. It's like, yeah, this cat's just doing its thing.
Yeah. Stray, everybody.
Can we talk about how it looks?
Oh yeah, it looks good. I think it looks good. I think here's where I'm going with that. I was expecting like 10 out of 10 on the visuals based on like the trailers and stuff. But when I had it up on the full screen, I was like, okay, this isn't like a first party Sony game we're dealing with. You can see some of the limitations, but the animations I think are so charming that it makes up for any lack of fidelity here and there.
It's a beautiful game.
Like
There's that.
I think it looked like I don't really have notes for the visuals. I mean, I'm sure with more, you know, could it look better? Yes, in the technical sense. I mean, Spider-Man looks better on PC than it did on PlayStation 4, but I think it looked fantastic, and I love what they did with the lighting. I think there's a lot of strong use of like lighting and detailing that sort of like guides you throughout like the city. And two, like I just want to also shout out the sound design. The sound design is the best sound design I've experienced this year in a game. I think everything has a unique sound to it. They really like pay attention to where are you stepping and how might it sound differently on the different surfaces. There's moments of like this sort of discordant hum that cuts through when you're going through one of the tunnels. That's really disturbing. I haven't heard sound design this good since usually it's only horror games that I think nail sound in the way that Stray does. But I think they like knocked out of the park, as well as the people that worked on the OST, which kind of complements both. They worked together.
The music is so good.
I think one of the reason that I was thinking about how it looks is like it's an Unreal game, and I feel like in those kind of Unreal things, you know, when they're showing off stuff, they are often like, here is how a small team can make a really big and expensive looking thing. And I feel like it's like in the indie space, I can't actually think of many games that are small but have kind of AAA, at least lighting, you know, if not animations or whatever. And this really feels like a game where it's like, wow, you can do some really cool stuff with lighting, you know, with kind of, I don't know that much about game engines, but like it feels like this Unreal has given them the tools to like really do some fancy stuff with like colors and lights and bounces and whatever, with, you know, a team that ultimately made a 4-hour game about cats. Yeah. You know, like it's cool that you can be at that level for this sort of game.
Yeah, absolutely. Stray, everybody, on PlayStation, on Steam.
$30.
This feels like a mission accomplished for Steam with their PS Plus expansion. I know that the PS1 collection, the Classics collection, for the premium version of that has kind of been meh, but like this has gotten people talking about PS Plus again, about like, hey, if you jump up to that extra tier, you can get this game about a cat that turns out as good.
Like, buying the game costs as much as buying PS Plus. So it's like, well, guess I'll just get PS Plus.
It's definitely a win for the extra tier and pushing the conversation on, is this going to be a good service? But I think it could actually be an overall L in the sense that we normally get that game on PS Plus base. So I do think it's pointing towards PS Plus Extra is going to be the new PS Plus base. And we're going to see, my prediction is that PS Plus is going to go the way of games with gold, where games with gold ain't really bringing the bangers like that anymore. That's going to be on Game Pass, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I do think it represents a shift in the PlayStation ecosystem that people might want to just be aware of or think
totally
about.
It's almost like the PS4 Pro coming out and making the PS4 fell behind on all these other games. It's unfortunate for the consumer.
You ever hear yourself saying one of those sentences where it's like, my mom wouldn't understand a single word I just said? It's like, it's like PS Plus Plus is not as good as games with gold, but we all speak a very specific language.
Yeah. Like I had to tell my dad about that event I did, and I was like, "So Xbox, they make the box that's standing in the living room.
Slow down, Brainiac.
It was a whole thing."
Hey, Janet, thank you for all your hard work this week, especially hosting the deepest dive on Jak and Daxter. Leo, hang on, are you winning?
I almost beat it.
He's playing his cat, everybody. Anyways,
just a little joke, just
Janet,
a little humor for you.
You want to clap out and go lay down on the couch and not talk about games for an hour?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Bye. Leo, do you know how this whole thing operates? I'll tell you how.
I don't know.
I'm going to tell you. If you relax, I'm going to tell you.
I wish I knew.
I'm going to tell you right now. Just relax and sit back and enjoy, because this whole thing is brought to you by patreon.com/MinnMax. So sit back and coast. But the twist, Leo, is that's not just a website. That's like a community of people. That's a collection of people that actually type that website into the URL, and then they go, maybe I do want to help support independent games media. Maybe there actually is a tier that gives me some benefits that I'm quite interested in. Maybe that $5 tier where I can more than double the amount of podcasts to listen to from MinnMax every week. Maybe that's the one for me. Thank you to all of our supporters over there. We are inching closer and closer to that Trek to Shrek goal of sending Janet to Minnesota to play Shrek 2 and make a whole Minnesota travelogue. We are getting within arm's reach. So any help making that happen is appreciated. And thanks to some of our bigger supporters, people like NordVPN, everybody. They want you to know about NordVPN and how, hey, if you're browsing through a VPN, your traffic is encrypted, so no one can see what you're doing. And they say that people who like gaming online unfortunately have to deal with DDoS attacks and bandwidth throttling as well. Luckily, you can forget all about those problems with NordVPN.
This is so crazy because I actually have a promo code that people can use for NordVPN.
Oh, interesting, because there's a link below, Leo, and it's the URL, and it's nordvpn.com/MinnMax, and the promo code is MinnMax around these parts. I don't know what it is.
LeoVader.com/.
No, don't, you'll jinx everything. Promo code MinnMax for NordVPN, because hey, if you want to play a game but it's not available in your country, basically if you want to just go invisible online and then also pretend as if your computer or your phone is anywhere on the world, so you can access Netflix in other countries, streaming services in other countries, games in other countries, you can do that through NordVPN. They say avoid DDoS attacks, block malware-ridden websites, secure browser traffic without affecting latency, and next-generation encryption, all through NordVPN. Leo, what would you say about NordVPN?
Use nordvpn.com/LeoVader to get a 10.
He's lying.
10% faster.
He's lying. He's lying. Look at this. They say grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/MinnMax with 2 N's to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus free threat protection and 1 additional month for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and it's better than LeoVader's deal, is what they wrote in our ad copy, which I think is pretty cool. Also, thanks to our friends over at iam8bit. They want everybody to know about this game that we might have talked about a little bit earlier called Escape Academy. They want everybody to know that it's available now on Xbox Game Pass, day one, of course, but it's also available on PS4, PS5, and PC through Steam and the Epic Games Store. They say that you've just arrived at Escape Academy. It's a school where promising students train to become the ultimate escapist. Play over a dozen masterfully handcrafted rooms designed by experienced experts in the field of real-life escape rooms. Experience the entirety of Escape Academy alone or in single player, or through 2-player cooperative play. It's available in local or online split screen, and you can go to iam8bit's wonderful online store to help support them in a big bad way. They really have a ton of cool stuff on their store, and you can use a promo code for this month. You can get 10% off everything under $100, and that promo code, who can forget, is Corn Month. No space. Corn Month.
Oh my god, I forgot to get my girlfriend a gift.
Hey, Leo, go to iam8bit store. You can get her the Corn Month gift of her wildest fantasies.
Get her corn.
And thanks to iam8bit for shipping out a prize to our community each and every week. This week, they're shipping out a copy of Grim Fandango on PlayStation 4. That's just a cool thing to own, and all thanks to iam8bit. So help support them, because honestly, and I'm not trying to kiss their ass too much. We're outside of our ad copy territory. Is there just like a cooler online retailer than iam8bit? Like they're cool. It's rare to be so connected to something that is cool, but iam8bit is cool. So please help support them because they do a lot for us. All right, we got a bunch of questions and comments and words of wisdom that have been sent over there on Patreon, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. You support us at any tier. Not only do you help support independent games media, but you can also submit a question and then you can win question of the week yourself. So we have a ton of great ones to get to. But before we do that, did y'all watch Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal on HBO?
Oh boy, did I.
Okay, Leo, you haven't watched it yet?
Not yet. I would take my headphones off.
No. We won't go into full spoilers. But Nathan for You is, over the last 10 years, within my top 3 favorite shows, for sure. If you've never seen it, you should check out some highlights here and there. But The Rehearsal is Nathan Fielder's new show. It's on HBO. Kyle and Jacob, where'd you come down on The Rehearsal without spoiling everything about that first episode?
It's great that it kind of doesn't have to be funny anymore.
Yes.
Like it is funny, but it's not like the show is not like we're a comedy. It's just like a kind of weird, nice show. Yes, I love where it's going for sure. It almost is like, Nathan Fielder produced How To with John Wilson, and even that show, it's like, well, it's funny, but it's not. Its primary concern isn't being funny, and it sounds pretentious to say, but it's not because it's all done through a slightly comedic lens. But like, its primary concern is just like, boy, humanity, huh? And this show feels very much in that vein,
It's also like weirdly. It was anxiety inducing but in a way that ended up ultimately being cathartic, because it's like you're practicing so much to execute this one thing, and then you have to watch the one thing be executed, and you're just like, but it's just two people talking.
Should we give? I mean, we don't have to.
No, we don't. Without even spoiling the synopsis of the first episode, but the premise of the show is it's called The Rehearsal, and it's Nathan Fielder, and he's like, hey, people are anxious about different scenarios in their life, so what if we help them by recreating the scenario they're going to be in to such a ridiculous, finely detailed degree that they can rehearse it again and again and again, and will go through every variation of what could possibly happen to them in the situation. And what it ends up turning into, maybe this is controversial, I think it's just based on this one episode, it feels like the best successor to Groundhog Day since Groundhog Day, which is a weird way of looking at it. But that is kind of how it feels, right? Because you just get to see them try these situations over and over and over again, like they're reliving this moment before they actually have to live it.
Yeah, or it is like a peek into the multiverse, where it's like here are just like 40 different ways this conversation could go, like based on little factors that are changing.
Yeah, and
multiverse is so hot right now, you guys.
Oh my god, it's so hot. But yeah, it's a show just about like human variability in a way of like what could throw people off a track. How do you try and contain a conversation and keep things in control without being a maniac?
I do think I said it wasn't a comedy. I think like, whoa, Door City over here.
One of the funniest lines. It is like, it feels like, if you remember the Nathan For You episode, Leo, where this must have been a big kind of early version of this concept, or what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like an alpha version of what they ended up building with The Rehearsal. But there's a Nathan For You episode where it's like, okay, you can't smoke in a bar unless it's a theatrical production. Yeah, smokers allowed. So now we're going to make this play that's just in a bar, and we're going to make these people rehearse these lines. It kind of has that vibe where it's like, it's not the funniest episode of Nathan For You, but it's just so ambitious and weird that you really have to give it up, It's kind of that combined with the finale of season 4, where it's just like an hour-long look at one person's life.
My sister sent me this tweet by someone named Mr. Charlie that says, Nathan Fielder has the brain of a serial killer who would never get caught, but the heart of a possum who woke up in a Best Buy one day and decided to try and become their top salesman, and for some reason they let him.
I wish I could attribute that tweet. I don't know who said it, but I saw someone else say, like, Nathan Fielder is the only person who's like using an HBO television show budget to the fullest.
Yes.
Like, he is using every single dime that they give him for just the most weird stuff.
Also the new, it's kind of old at this point, but the new season of How To with John Wilson was also so good, which is like another Nathan Fielder produced show, even if he's not like on camera there. And it's just like, I want him to make TV about people and kind of no one else.
Yep. Everyone else make it about cats. Nathan Fielder's got humanity on lock. But yeah, The Rehearsal. Let us know what you think in the comments, everybody. Hey, Jacob writes in and says, have you all seen The Rehearsal? I'm curious what your thoughts are. No. They say, since cats are the best animal ever, and it's a fact, I have a question related to this magnificent animal. What's your stance on naming cats people names? I have a friend who named his cat Meow, and other friends call them Patrick, Simba, Jacob, and so on. Yeah, so people name for cat.
I like a human name for any
Oh,
cat,
it's great.
just because it's weird. Like, oh, that's Stan. Your cat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, my partner is a cat named Fred. Very funny.
It is.
And sometimes it speaks to you the way you feel the right name for a baby, I'm guessing. You know, you have a cat and you go, try a few on. Oh, Hank.
Eugene.
I call this thing Hank.
Right.
And it works.
Right. Here's a related thing. You know that joke about like you're in a fantastical environment or like a sci-fi film, and they're like, and this is Quabnarb the Fourth from Zomulant and his best friend Steven. You know that? You know that joke?
Dune.
Dune? I guess Dune is like that. Yeah, you totally. I was trying to think of like the origins of that because I rewatched Men in Black recently, which, my God, that movie rules. I hadn't seen it for so long, and I forgot that
Which
like
movie?
Men in Black.
Oh, Men in Black.
Yeah, like the twins who like run the computer. They do a version of that joke there, where it's like one is a Wackanay and the other one's Frank or whatever the hell. And I'm trying to think of like the origins of that. I mean, is it a Douglas Addams thing?
Anyone could think of that.
Yeah, so there's not like the origin of that joke.
If one
thing.
invented it, somebody else would have invented it a month later.
Well, I think is it Titan AE where somebody names a planet and they name it like, we'll call it Veronica or something like that.
Well, I watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail recently, and there are some who call me Tim.
That is exactly that joke. Yeah, you're totally right. Let's just attribute everything to Holy Grail. Ricky Winterborn writes in and says, what's your favorite scenario for listening to a podcast? While working? On a scenic bike ride? Numbing the pain of sitting in traffic? I had a couple flights recently and the MinnMax backlog was a delightful companion while drawing on my iPad. That sounds great. I'd like to listen to myself while drawing on a flight. That sounds fun. For me, it's bike ride. I go on a bike ride every morning, and I think I'm becoming a weird bike person. Not like in terms of like buying gear and all that stuff, but in terms of just how much I love it. Like
turning into a bike, like a hybrid, half human.
It's kind of like like the new Pokemons for Violet and Scarlet, the legendary ones, where they have like wheels coming out of them. I kind of look like that. No, but I have savored that time more and more, and I've been extending my ride every morning. Like, how much can I put my body through? Because just listening to podcasts while biking early in the morning, it might be my favorite thing.
I mean, I've been walking the dog a lot. Like that was sort of my main reason to agree to get a dog. Is like, I'm going to walk this thing, and I have been walking it, and that's a really good podcasting time.
Yeah.
And I also find grocery shopping is like the other time that I actually weirdly like get into podcasts, because I'm kind of walking around, I'm kind of doing something, like I'm kind of working.
Right.
I don't like just sitting and doing like nothing else while I'm podcasting. It has to be kind of a secondary thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, cooking is a big one for me. Or honestly, it's like I really love playing a kind of mindless open world game. Like I always think about the Mad Max game, which I think is the single best podcast game ever made. Of like that game is just, like just interesting enough and just kind of uneventful enough that it just makes it's for perfect podcast listening.
Totally.
What's your video game podcast routine, Jacob? Who are you listening to on a regular basis?
Oh, I mean, it's the same. Like, I kind of have the same regular rotation for everything, which is just Blank Check and their bonus feed, and Doughboys and their bonus feed, and then the kind of like This American Life, some other random smart ones, Comedy Bang Bang. They're mostly like dumb.
By the way, I like that you said smart ones, and then you're like, and Comedy Bang Bang. You drew the line.
Right. No, what about just video game stuff?
Yeah, not really.
Really?
I listen to MinnMax on weeks that I'm not on it, but it's like I kind of the video game podcast that I listen to that I really like is Ranged Touch, which is kind of a network, does Game Study Buddies. That's Cameron Kunzelman and Michael Lutz, which is like reading an academic book about games, and they are both like English PhDs and then talking through it.
Here we go.
But like, respect to every game podcast, including this one. Like, all the conversations kind of sound like the one we had about Stray, and I only need like one of those. I don't need a bunch of them.
Yeah, I hear you. How do we be different, though, without just being too novel? Because every once in a while, I mean, Leo, we talk about this in our last content meeting about, like, should we just nuke the MinnMax show? Because it's like our most successful show, but at times it feels like the most conventional. And it's like, yeah, do we just nuke it and like do a deep dive into a topic for every episode? I don't know if that would be a net positive. I think people, they like the kind of routine of it in some ways, you know?
I think the best solution is to talk about things that other people aren't talking about.
Yeah. Well, like,
Klonoa's which is why I want to talk about the 20 hours that I've put into Metal Gear Survive
on my
Steam Deck.
See, why did you bring that up in the Monday meeting?
I don't know, because I want to try to beat it.
Oh, is it insightful so far?
I desperately want to hear about that.
What was your question, Hanson?
Is it insightful so far?
I like it more than I thought I would, if that makes sense.
Really?
Like I'm enjoying it. It's a really good play for an hour a night before I go to bed on my Steam Deck game, because like it's like, all right, I'm gonna load up all my stuff. I got food, I got water. I'm gonna go out into the wild. I'm gonna complete a mission or two. I'm gonna move back. All right, that's enough for the night. You know, it's not really like a great sit down and play for like 3 or 4 hours at a time, but like in isolated sessions over a long period of time, I'm getting into it. I'm enjoying it.
That's weird. Leo, I feel like you should be primed for Metal Gear Survive. Isn't that kind of in your wheelhouse?
I really should be. A stupid version of a good game that still plays good.
Right.
Yeah, well, does it feel like Metal Gear Solid 5, like running around? Like, does it? Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a good feeling game.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, I love Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes and 5, and this is like, it's an excuse to sort of play with those mechanics in like a new setting with a story that's like not as interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It is very much like, you know, you're making your own adventure. Like I'm finding people out in the wilderness and bringing them back, but I'm not like, you know, maintaining relationships with them or getting engaged in the story. But it's like, as far as just like going out and finding weird stuff, like it's working for me. I'm having a good time with it.
Look, I don't want to lock anything down, but I would friggin' love to watch a stream of Leo playing Metal Gear Survive and then you join him in co-op, Kyle. I would really love to see that, just theoretically.
You know what we need to do is I'll finish it, and then this is how we get Serial back to do some content. We'll do a spoiled on Metal Gear Survive, because he's the only person I know who's finished it.
Kyle, MinnMax has only been around for 3 years. It's called Max Spoilers.
What did I say?
You call it spoiled so often.
Oh, sorry.
We don't own
Survive
spoiled.
On Steam, mixed reviews overall, recent reviews, mostly positive.
There we go.
Top review, I see. This ain't that bad. Crap.
The whole reason I started this thing, Jacob kicked off the internet's reinfatuation with Revengeance.
Yeah.
I did the math. Metal Gear Survive is coming back around in
that's
like
the
3
next
or 4
one.
years.
Yeah.
It's almost like 3. I did the math. I have to find the tweet. I think it's 2024, 2025.
Smart.
Get ready for Metal Gear Survive.
I'm going to set a reminder in my phone for Acid 2. Because years from now, that's going to be popping in a huge way. By the way, Jacob, have you ever talked to a friend of the show, Mark McDonald, the guy who, in my mind, was primarily responsible for the English script of Metal Gear Rising? Feels like you should talk to him at some point.
Jeez, it's like, should I meet my heroes?
That'd be fun to line up at some point, actually. Remind me, write that down. Okay, enough about these content ideas. Oh, sorry, Leo, we didn't get to. Did you have an ideal podcast scenario?
Just when I'm doing brain dead chores, washing the dishes, sweeping, cleaning,
living. Starkiller writes in, hey, MinnMaxers, do you have a distinction between your favorite game and the best game in a franchise? For example, I'd argue that Super Mario Odyssey is objectively the best 3D Mario game, but my favorite is Super Mario 64. Similarly, Breath of the Wild may be the best Zelda game, but Ocarina of Time is my favorite. Got any of those weird distinctions?
I mean, I'm on the same page as that last example. Like, I think Breath of the Wild is like an objectively better game, but Ocarina of Time will always, forever, until the day I die, be my favorite game, because it just changed the trajectory of how I feel about video games as a medium of artistic expression. Like, that was the first one that just like changed everything for me.
Yeah.
I am a broken record on this conversation, but I don't think there's a best anything unless you can really measure it, like a sports player with the highest stats or whatever. There's no best video game ever.
So therefore,
it's only your favorite.
So favorite is all that matters. It's exactly
I don't know.
the same.
It's like, I think my favorite is like Mario Kart Wii, and I know that's not the best, but like, you know,
No, I get it.
That's the one. I think there are some things where it's like, there's kind of like if I was trapped on a desert island, I would want this one because it's the best. But if I was just going to go and play something for an hour, I want the one that I'm more like nostalgic for or whatever. And that's kind of where it breaks down for me with like favorite versus best.
Yeah. Brandon Scott writes in and says, hey, so last week y'all were talking about the batting average of Annapurna's games. As a big baseball fan, I thought I would take a stab at it. According to Metacritic, Annapurna's score distribution for reviews is 55 for good and 15 for mixed. The same game can have multiple reviews if it released on multiple platforms, though. If good is considered a hit and mixed is considered an out, then Annapurna's average is 55 out of 70, which is a .787. Sample size is important for averages, though, and 70 at-bats for Annapurna is roughly equivalent to only 1 month's worth of at-bats for an average starter in the MLB. Regardless, if Annapurna had a 10-year career with a batting average of .787, they'd be the greatest baseball player of all time, without a doubt, and better than most other publishers. But here are some batting averages for other publishers to give you some sense of scale here. Sony, batting average, .534. Microsoft Game Studios, batting average, .554. Wouldn't expect that to be higher than Sony's. Nintendo, .575. Ubisoft, .385. I'm sorry, Leo. I should have given you a heads up. I didn't want you to get heartbroken on the show with that kind of data thrown at you.
This is fake news.
Okay. And From Software, .480, which seems shockingly low for that as well. But there we go.
I guess if you're counting like Armored Core and whatever.
Yes, yeah. So if you really go back in the day.
Well, no, okay, but here's where we need to get like real nerdy about baseball stats, because there's batting average, but there's also like wins above replacement, where it's like, if this person wasn't on the team, how would they be doing? So it's like, you know, we've only started to analyze the statistics of these publishers.
Hell yeah. Come on, baseball nerds, have at us.
You know how earlier you were talking about trying to explain video game terms to like parents?
Right.
Wins above replacement.
I believe that's
is
what
that. I was just like, what? What are those words go together?
Yeah. So this is WAR. So this is like really the only reason I know about this is John Boyes. Yeah, the best sports talker, but like he has. You know, he has like a big documentary on like pitcher, and he argues that it's like, look, this pitcher's stats, if you just look at them on this one level, are not that good. But if you look at like how many games the team would have lost if he wasn't on the team, he's actually like the greatest pitcher of all time.
Oh my God.
So it's really, I mean, it's like, you know, basically moneyballing whatever, like any kind of player or sport or whatever can be really interesting if you know how to kind of play with those numbers.
That's what I call it when I'm at the club. I'm moneyballing.
Yeah, exactly. Remember when Bobby Kotick was in that movie?
Because like, you're crying, you're money balling, like how much money you're spending.
Yeah, I wish I could spend money on any of these attractions here at the club.
Do you want to hear about the perfect end of this rabbit hole, combining everything? I don't think this is a secret, but I had a meeting with Kelsey Lewin earlier today about some stuff that's very exciting that might be coming up here at MinnMax soon. But she was talking about like just weird things that she collects. And she's like, yeah, I started collecting Mad Catz. I think it was like plastic baseball bats for the Wii, because they had them licensed to each professional baseball team. And she's like, I started collecting them because like they're like $10 a piece and nobody else is collecting them, but it's such an obscure thing that I want to have them all. It's like,
she's like a big baseball super
fan,
right?
Right.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's great.
It's very specific. Quentin Cassidy writes in and says, hey, some news on Yakuza 8, the follow-up to Like a Dragon, trickled out this week, and it looks like it'll be a continuation of Ichiban and Friends stories. Are y'all eager for this, or would you prefer a whole new crew? I think I recall Ben once saying that Like a Dragon has his favorite JRPG party members of all time. I think that's true. So I was on Axe of the Blood God, the podcast hosted by Kat Bailey, who works for IGN. And I was on there with John Carson, formerly of Game Informer. And the point of the episode was like a bunch of RPG nerds, and we all were debating the greatest JRPG parties of all time. And I think Yakuza came in at number 2 or number 3, which I think is wild when you're putting it up against like every Final Fantasy, every JRPG ever. It's like, that is damn impressive for their first real JRPG to have it cast that good. Anyways,
so, my wife loves Like a Dragon.
Yeah.
To the point where she's like, I'm sad I beat it. I wish I could replay it fresh. Like, I miss that game so much. And she's really gets annoyed with me at this point when I bring it up even. But I'm like, there's 7 other Yakuza games you can try.
Not interesting.
And her response is always like, I want to hang out with Ichiban.
Yes,
I
exactly.
want to be with Ichiban. I don't care about this other guy. And
that's what people said. Going into it, loving Kiryu so much, and then they fell in love with Ichiban. And it probably would go the other way too. But I just got into Like a Dragon a couple weeks ago. I'm like 20 hours in, and I adore that game.
Really? You're playing it for the first time?
Yeah, for the first time.
Oh my God, that's so bizarre because Janet's also streaming it and playing it for the first time, and Sarah's streaming all the Yakuza games trying to get to it, so she's hoping by the end of 2029 she'll be playing Yakuza Like a Dragon.
No, well, we're gonna be playing Metal Gear Survive.
Oh, that's right. We'll let her know. I love that Like a Dragon's having this weird resurgence as this Yakuza 8 couple of images trickled out. But all we really know from Yakuza 8 is it was showing off the studio and it had a couple screens, and it's like, okay, we saw Namba, saw some other characters, and then Ichiban's hair is different. Like, he has his hair tied back, which I don't know how I feel about it. It is funny in that game that like it was just like a mistake that his hair turned into the fro, but then he just kind of stuck with it. I think there's something charming about that, but I guess logically there's no reason for him to keep his hair that way, right?
No, there's going to be a dramatic thing where he realizes the strength of his hair at full potential. And he takes the tie off. That's my prediction.
That's true. How far are you in that game then? 20 hours? What type of stuff are you doing these days?
I'm dealing with the Gome Jewel for kind of the first time, really meeting those characters and learning what they're up to.
Yeah.
Bond levels of 4 and 5. I really love the bonding stuff. Like, as great as the characters are themselves, it's also really interesting mechanically and fun to like go have meals and unlock secret conversations between two people about the type of food, about the drinks you're having or whatever. Like, that also makes you love those characters so much more.
Yeah, and you had played other Yakuza games, right?
0 and Kiwami 2.
Okay.
6.
How do you feel like this is stacking up to the other ones so far? Because Like a Dragon's the only one I've really sunk my teeth into.
I was so scared to try this one for the longest time because I was kind of Yakuza burnt out at the time it came out because there were so many in a row. But I was like, turn-based doesn't sound like my thing, partially because I like the Yakuza combat, I think, more than a lot of people, the newer combat. Like, I really enjoyed the brawling. But it feels like my favorite one so far.
Oh, I love that.
I'm really loving it and having a lot of fun with the combat.
That's so excellent to hear. The Master DS writes in with our favorite comment over there on Patreon, said, hey, everybody, missed joke opportunity. Someone should have used all their bullets on the last episode when claiming games, and then upon a good game being read out, should have said, click. Oh no, I'm fresh out of bullets. That would have been fun. Nice. That would have been fun if we did that. I'm sorry. Christian Feliciano says, hello, Ben and Company. Power Washer Simulator is out now. Went 1.0, which I thought happened a while ago because, I mean, Kyle, were you there? We streamed that like from the MinnMax basement super early on. Do you remember that? Or was that Jeffem and I? Yeah.
I think it might have been you and Jeffem. I believe you.
That's right.
I trust you.
But now it's to a point where Square Enix is publishing it, and apparently it's just beloved. I got to check out the final version. Anyways, Christian says, it's such a satisfying game that it got me thinking, what other real jobs or mundane tasks would you like to see make the jump to gaming? I'd love to see a DualSense supported... Oh, well, hang on. I didn't read this ahead of time. I don't know how I feel about this. A DualSense supported scab removal simulator with the adaptive triggers and a ton of resistance at first and then abruptly released with a pop.
Okay.
Whose job is that?
Okay, I have honestly kind of similar to power washing, but there are videos on YouTube of like a big pond, basically, like after a storm, and someone wading in and like pulling stuff out of the storm drain, and then eventually the whole pond just goes down the storm drain. And like, I think it would hit the same kind of like primal satisfying buttons that power washing does.
That sounds great. I will tell you, as somebody who's dismantled a beaver dam before in their lives, not fun at all. It took a long time and they're really dense and it sucked.
In a video game,
That's
you could unlock new tools to use on it.
Yeah, that would be fun.
When did you dismantle a beaver dam?
I don't want to go into my personal life, Jacob. No,
is this on the honeymoon? Beavers' homes.
No, it was because back where I grew up, out in the boondocks there, we have there's like a old creek going into a lake, and the beaver dam was like backing it up and it was a problem. It's like, okay, I guess we have to dismantle it. And so we just spent the entire day out there like tearing apart this beaver dam. And then if a beaver was in there, we just have to snap its neck real quick and just throw it to the side. No, that didn't happen. But it was empty. It wasn't being used, I guess. Have you guys, I don't think I talked about it on the podcast, but have you seen Dinosaur Fossil Hunter, which came out this year?
No. I saw that I have that in Epic because I have a press account, and it's just like, why is that in my library?
It's one of those games that's like, oh, okay, I like dinosaurs, I like Jurassic Park, let's see how this goes. And then the more I was playing it and I streamed it, the more it's like, wait, I think this might kind of rule. Because like it starts out and you're a kid falling in love with dinosaurs, so you're just like drawing pictures of dinosaurs and connecting bones and all this stuff. And then it jumps to, all right, now you're a professional paleontologist. Why am I forgetting this name? So going out and finding those dinosaur bones. And it is so absurdly sim-based, and there's so many steps for you to go through. So it's like, okay, you want those dinosaur bones? First, you got to gas up the car, get in the car, go on the road on these back roads. Okay, there's a tree down. You have to get out your chainsaw.
Wait, hold on. Are you driving a car?
Yeah, you're a person running around, and then you get in a car to drive to the dinosaur site.
So they have like driving mechanics and physics?
Yes.
Paleontology?
Yes. And then you have to get the chainsaw in your inventory and use the chainsaw to get through the trees to make a path for you to get to this site. Then eventually you get to the site, and then like, you know those, you remember the opening of Jurassic Park where they have like that weird thing that looks like a shotgun shell and they're like, poof, and they shoot it into the ground? You basically have to do that type of thing where you're like scanning for where the bones are. And you find that, section that off, then dig down, find the bones, but there's also a bunch of rocks.
Hold on. Is there a TV displaying the results?
There is. It's on a little screen.
Does it fuzz?
I hate computers. Isn't that a fun sound in Jurassic Park when he puts his hand on it? It's like zzz. Anyways, then you dig it out.
The best sound in the whole movie.
It probably is. Absolutely. So then there's a bunch of like rocks that are like false alarms. You have to search each rock to make sure there's dinosaur bones within that. If it's not, then you have to like move the rocks aside. Then you get the rocks, you got to carve out the fossil, then you got to put it in plaster, then you got to load it in boxes, then put the boxes in your car, drive all the way back to the lab, then you bring it back to the lab, then you cut it open, then you chisel around all that stuff, then you clean the bones. And it's like, okay, you have the bone, this one bone from the skeleton. Once you get them all, then you connect them in a museum, then you actually prop it up in the museum, and then you actually design the layout of the museum to make it like optimal way to look at this dinosaur skeleton. It is just ridiculously and delightfully layered.
Application mechanics like?
I would not be surprised if that's in there.
You have to like use the bathroom. You have to like, oh, you haven't eaten in 6 hours.
Yeah, they're saving that for the expansion, I think. Kind of
this does sound cool. Round. I feel like I'm being jokey and dismissive, but like this seems like the right way to go about a game like this. Just do everything. Why not?
Absolutely. Anybody else got a mundane job that they want in a game?
I can't think of a mundane job I wouldn't want in a game, to be honest.
Yeah. All games should just be mundane jobs.
Like traffic booth toll taker.
Oh, okay. You like that?
No, I was suggesting that as a game I would not want to play.
No.
Papers, Please is like close to that sort of, and that's an interesting game.
Okay, take it back.
Whatever happened to Lucas Pope's Playdate game? Remember where you're like a bouncer on Mars? Did they ever announce a release date for that?
I got my Playdate email this morning. I'm finally getting my hardware.
Hell yeah.
Which seems like it took a long time, but
yeah. I hope you enjoy it. Oh, you're going to love Pick Pack Pop, baby. Game of the year. Aaron Hurd writes in and says, hey, this might be a controversial topic. Do you think gamers and other fans of nerdy stuff like Star Wars are especially toxic online? Or do you think that all these fans are just as toxic and we just notice these fans because it's the community that we're in? I could be wrong, but it doesn't feel like other fandoms are as toxic. I can't imagine fans of Adele sending death threats to her for her latest album was delayed. I mean, they're also probably
Swifties
weird.
Send death threats to other people, to be clear. So, like, it does happen.
Yeah, they usually have it coming, though, because the princess needs to be protected, Jacob.
I have like an unsubstantiated theory that is, I mean, like just the sort of the medium of video games is so, you have such control over the sort of expression of the game, right? Like you are in full control. You dictate every element of it. So when some part of that thing that you like is completely out of your hand and you have no control over it, I feel like maybe some people inappropriately get really upset about it, right? Like maybe there's just like that's Like, I don't know. It's a lot of just like,
I don't know, because it's like gamer rage feels exactly the same as like The Last Jedi rage, you know. So I feel like it's more kind of the idea of a nerd subculture versus anything specific to like the medium of gaming, just kind of like the audience that's been catered to with these things.
I think it's anything that you feel a deep ownership of. And I think that can get creepy probably with musicians and stuff, but I think like that ownership of like, no, those comic books felt really personal to me. Therefore, let me tell you how to produce the MCU. I think it's kind of that tone. The one that killed me recently was like freaking Ron Gilbert, who had to just be like, you know what? I'm not going to talk about Return to Monkey Island anymore because everyone's lobbing too much hate my way because they don't like the art style. But that just made me embarrassed on behalf of all gamers. Like, man, Ron Gilbert is making a new Monkey Island game and he was trying to talk about it and everyone's screaming at him about the art style because it looks different, because it's trying to look more unique and special. And like, you know, Jeff Gerstmann pointed this out on his podcast too, but it's just, the weird thing is like, they're not 13-year-olds. Like, anybody who really gives a crap about Monkey Island, these are adult men who are hating their creator for this miracle of them coming back to work on this franchise. It is embarrassing.
It sucks. It's terrible. Yeah.
I don't know how people can make games.
Yeah.
When I feel like most of what they hear is just horrible.
But I do, to kind of answer the question. I do think it's worse here, and it's not something that I think we can just write off as like, well, fandom communities are all bad and we're gamers. It's like, I do think it's kind of important to be like, no, this is like uniquely bad. And I mean, you know, like I still think the shadow of Gamergate looms over a lot of kind of contemporary discourse, and like I think there are kind of modern events that you can point to that feel like a resurgence of those sort of attitudes. You know, we can't just write it off as people being passionate means that they'll be like rude sometimes.
No, it's bigger than that for sure. It's not just like, oh, those jerks over there. It's a problem.
Yeah, when like the Star Wars Twitter account has to be like, glad you're enjoying Obi-Wan Kenobi. By the way, everybody needs to relax about that new character, like the Sith Inquisitor that you all don't like. And what, like, Ewan McGregor had to record like a video in his car where he's like, hey, if you're a Star Wars fan, we'd appreciate it if you weren't racist. It's like, are we really at that level? It's just,
well, I mean, it's like, that's interesting because I think that was really a response to them like not doing that before, where they told, you know, like Rose in The Last Jedi, they like didn't say anything, and then she got bullied off the internet and essentially out of the series. Right. And so it's kind of nice to see that they are like taking a more active stance on that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sure. I hadn't thought of it that way. Adam Castellanos writes in and says, do y'all have any irrational or completely illogical fears? For example, I am terrified of vampires. Adam, look out behind you right now, there's a vampire! I have so many of these. Let me know if I'm neurotic for these. First of all, when I was a kid, other than like ghosts and stuff.
Yes.
Okay. My biggest fear was I was going to get sucked down the tub. Like, I wouldn't let my parents start draining the tub until I was out of that bath. And I remember this sort of distinctly. I'm like, I'm going to get sucked down that drain and it's going to be horrifying. And it's such a stupid thing, but I feel like those level of irrational fears are still with me to this day.
Is that Edith Finch? Was that like a horrifying sequence for you?
No, this was just dumb baby brain. I got over it. But it's the one.
Well, I mean, clearly you're not alone, though, right? Someone made a.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know?
Well, I mean, what Edith Finch? No one gets sucked down the drain. Like that's not the fear.
It's bathtub stuff. I just misremembered. Yeah, okay. It's a lot of bath stuff. But now my two biggest fears are.
Isn't that how the baby dies? Gets sucked down the drain.
Look, it's a very abstract game. People die in very strange ways that don't make sense in that game.
That's very true.
But by the way, I didn't know that Ben Esposito worked on Edith Finch, the Neon White and Donut County guy. I didn't know that he went back there. I just heard an interview with him. Anyways, my two biggest fears now.
It was that bat scene that made the hole get bigger and the baby went down it that he was like,
That's smart. We're connecting all the dots. We got this. Right. Okay, my biggest fear is I'm convinced I'm going to die by tripping on the sidewalk and then going into the street as a bus goes by and I get decapitated. Because
You will.
I will. Because I trip all the time, and I really think there's a chance that'll happen.
Easily.
We're laughing now. We won't be laughing.
No, I give you permission to laugh.
When this
Honestly, if you in terms of the ways to go, that's probably upper 30%. Like, that'd be all right.
I'm not.
You mean
I'm
in
not
terms
laughing.
of quality?
It's when this happens, I'll be able to say I warned him.
Don't go on sidewalks. The other one also involves me being a klutz, where every hike I go on, I worry about tripping over like a tree branch or something, and then going down, and then there being a rock right where my knee is, and then my knee explodes and I hit that rock. That is, I can't hike without thinking about it. So yeah.
I'm with you on the vivid imagining the sequence of events that comes from you screwing up. I used to do that all the time on my bike of like, I bump off this thing, get hit by a bus. Could happen at any second.
Yep.
Yeah, it's easy to picture that stuff.
But we pray that you don't at home.
My weird one right now, which I'll just share because it's different from y'all's, is I really hate mold, which is like a logical thing. It's like you don't want mold on your food, but it's like I to an extent where it's like I get really freaked out if I have to like touch something that has like moldy food in it, because I don't know, I feel like it's gonna like spread to me or something. Like it's almost like a Last of Us thing, where I don't think I'm gonna turn into a zombie, but I do think it's just going to like infect me somehow.
Right. That's some weird Dan Reichert stuff. Like you want to eat yogurt because I don't know, somebody told him.
I eat yogurt all the time.
Okay,
I love those active cultures.
Yeah, good. Sam Kennedy writes in and says, "Oh, by the way, Leo, it was fun to hear you on Fire Escape."
Thank you. It's fun to be on.
Podcast. Yeah, that was fun. Did you know you're going to be talking about Hitman before you dove into that?
No, I mean, immediately before it was like, we'll just talk about what you've been playing. And I said Hitman and Yakuza. And then Hitman ended up filling a full hour, which was like my dream come true. It was so fun just talking about Hitman with two other people who also respect the shit out of it.
Yeah, it was super good. It was a super good Hitman conversation. I was very jealous. Like, man, I wish we could fuel Leo's love of Hitman as much, but like nobody here is as passionate about it as you are. They are. Sam Kennedy writes in and says, "Hey, MinnMax, how do you sleep on planes? Is there some crazy trick or position that works for you? Me personally, I've just accepted the fact that there's no way I'm sleeping ever during a flight."
All right, here's a good trick is become a dad, and then you can literally fall asleep at any time in any position. It's like a dad superpower that all dads share. I don't know how it happens.
Interesting. I like it.
So that wasn't something you had at all before your father?
I don't think so. But like I can instantly, like very easily fall asleep. I think this is Jacob. Maybe you heard it too because you were talking about Doughboys recently. But Adam Pally and John Gabris are promoting their new show a lot, and he was like, when they talked about it, I think on Doughboys, he was like, "Yeah, Adam Pally, this guy could if we have a 7-minute drive up the street, he just falls asleep immediately." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's because he's a dad. Like that's exactly where that comes from. I don't know what it is. I don't know how your biology changes, but." It makes it work. I usually fall asleep before we even take off.
Oh yeah.
You sleep so your child can kill you and take your place.
That's right.
Evolutionarily.
Do you think
of irrational fears?
Do you all use the thing on planes where you pop the seat up and you can kind of like fold it a little bit? Do the little seat fold?
No.
That's
I'm
like
not even aware of this.
What?
Yeah, that's like a person who's flown a lot and knows planes. That's like a tip.
Yeah, this isn't like a
life
first
hack,
class thing. I don't know if it's every flight, but certainly Delta, you can like, there's like just subtle flaps that you can fold a little bit to rest your head. They're not great, but it's something.
I am on team. I will say, I really don't think anyone should recline seats ever.
Yep, absolutely.
Like which is, I mean, it's like, it's weirdly controversial that I just thought it was like, well, yeah, everyone feels that way, and then anyone who reclines their seat is a jackass. But like, that's not, people, and it's built into the seat, so I understand why you would think that it's fine, but I don't.
I'm with you. Taking the stand. Live with it, everybody. The tray move is odd. I don't know about that. Every once in a while, I'll try that, where you fold out the tray, then put your arms on that and try and rest on that. And
yeah.
I've got it to work maybe once, and
I'm shorter than I think both you and Leo, so maybe it works for me better because I just have like a smaller torso, so I can fold up more.
Quit bragging.
I can't sleep on planes at all. It's not worth trying for me. Whatever sleep I do get is like useless. I end up more tired than before.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Well, the good news is you'll probably rarely fly again with the state of the world. So
I have a private jet. I use
Oh,
every single day twice.
Oh, cool.
For
Pelican
like
Man.
7-minute flights.
That's right.
Yeah, to go to the Dairy Queen across the street.
Pelican Man writes in and says, now that we're largely through another game reveal season, what developers out there are you the most curious to know what they're working on? I assume we've all lost interest in Ken Levine and his stack of narrative Legos. Well, he wanted to make that game, but it turns out Legos are really expensive. So the budget for the game just keeps ballooning and he can't quite piece those narrative Legos together. Yeah, I got one. I like this question. I always like to have one chamber for like, what is the greatest mystery studio out there? Because for a while it was Warner Brothers Montreal. And then they said, Gotham Knights. And I said, okay. But I think for now.
Rocksteady also.
Yeah, true. But I think for me right now, I think number one is Bonfire Studio. And they have been eerily quiet. So this is like Rob Pardo, who's the designer for StarCraft and Warcraft 3 and World of Warcraft, like a huge old Blizzard talent. He formed Bonfire Studio years ago. And the director of Diablo 3 is there. Morgan Webb is there. It's like this weird all-star team, including a lot of former Blizzard talent. And they say on their site, quote, our quest is to build legendary experiences that brings players closer together, united in a sense of adventure, exploration, and fellowship. And then I checked their Twitter account. It has been silent since May 2021. So there's just been nothing. And then I was like, well, what happened May 2021? I was like, this is probably maybe a coincidence, but it's like, that's also, I think, when the stories about Blizzard and kind of the old timers at Blizzard and Blizzard culture really started hitting in a big way. And so I wonder if the studio's just like, let's go dark for a while so people don't connect us so much to that old Blizzard, despite of how much old Blizzard talent we have here. But that's me just reading too much into things. But does anybody else have a studio that they're super curious about?
I can. My boring answer is I point to the Last Guardian poster behind me. It's just gen design. I just want to know what my buddy Ueda's doing.
That's my answer too.
Yeah, that's the correct answer. I forgot about that. Victor Pham writes in and asks, did the Poseidon Princess in God of War 3 deserve to be killed by Kratos, where she was crushed by a door mechanism? Also, did anyone deserve to be killed by Kratos in the way that they were? Great question, Victor.
It's funny, you didn't put the first half of this question in the thing, because it's like, that's maybe Kratos' most heinous kill, because it's like, she literally didn't do anything.
And
like,
he kills her with a door?
It was like, she was like a slave to Poseidon, and there was like there was a thing where you had to like hold a door open, and he just chained her to it, and then they walked through, and then it like came down. So totally undeserved.
But that was back when the God of War series was good, you say, Jacob Geller?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I would say most of the other gods, probably yes. Like Ares, unquestionably yes. I think Zeus, probably. Hephaestus didn't deserve what he got, but it's like the gods in that game were terrible. The plot is like Kratos is horrible, but also they're all horrible. And so it's like, I think a lot of them had it coming.
Hot take.
For maybe like Hades, weirdly. What did Hades?
Yeah, Hades was just like, he wasn't really
just there
doing anything. I will also say in real life, I'm against the capital punishment.
Okay,
but
cool.
in God of War world, they had it coming.
Yeah, I guess God and gods, that's all they do is dish out capital punishment. That's kind of like their main thing.
Yeah, on each other, yeah, for sure.
Well, against mortals too, we think about it.
But that's why they needed to be killed.
I see. David Dubs writes in and says, hey y'all, if you could go to a restaurant and be guaranteed to have the best burger you've ever had in your life, what is the maximum amount that you would pay for it?
$22.
So if there's a $23 burger, but it was guaranteed to be the best burger. I think this is
not far from a burger that I would just get in Durham.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I have principles, guys. Get used to it.
But this isn't like... they're not billing
I would go
it.
pretty high for like guaranteed best burger.
It's not just that they're saying that.
50, $60 probably.
I think $50 is a good number.
Like half the burgers I eat, I feel like are the best burger of my life.
That's a great point. I like a Five Guys burger. I've rarely walked away from that meal being like, that was one of the best burgers I've ever.
Would you guys...
so like, is it better by like 1%? And then I guess also, does it like haunt you that it's like any other burger feels worse?
Something to think about.
Oh, yeah, the monkey's paw situation. It's a great name for a burger.
But you've eaten the best burger of your life, presumably already. Have other follow-up burgers been ruined because of that? Like, I still enjoy a McDonald's burger, despite having at some point in my life having eaten the best burger in my life.
Do you all like Five Guys burgers or Parlor Burgers from North Loop in Minneapolis more?
I like Five Guys because you get a bunch of crap on it. Parlor Burgers you have it the way we make it.
And you like it, please.
Tack yells at you for adding ketchup. It's like a weird part of the experience.
He's gone. Shh, he's gone. The bad guy's gone. Shh. You can eat it however you want now. Julius, forgive me. Julius Januskavicius, maybe I was close, says, hello. A while back in one of the podcasts, Ben mentioned a band called Modest Mouse. I've never heard of them until then, so I had to look them up, and I'm so glad I did. I've been listening to them quite regularly since then, and I've managed to see them live this Sunday, which will be a memory for the rest of my life. Good Lord. Yeah, I'm happy to turn you on to these under-the-radar bands like Modest Mouse.
To discover Modest Mouse.
Hell yeah. I love it. That band is very important to me.
Well, obviously, they're playing shows.
Unfortunately, yeah. Modest Mouse, as much as I love that band, they're very important to me in high school and stuff. Like, live, not great. And they're one of those bands where, like, I think the first time I saw them at First Ave in Minneapolis, they came out and started singing, and it was probably like 30 minutes before Isaac Brock actually acknowledged, like, oh, by the way, hi Minneapolis. It's like one of those types of things. I don't know. I want a little more talking. Anyways,
Kyle, they're not together anymore, so for their shows, they just play one after the other. They take turns.
Yeah. Julius asks, have you ever discovered something thanks to a podcast that otherwise you wouldn't have?
Constantly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, no, Triple R was because of a tweet. My biggest thing here was just other podcasts. Like, kind of the only way that I start listening to a podcast is if there's a very funny guest on one that I already listened to, and then I will go to their show. So it's like, I started listening to Doughboys because, I mean, this dates it, but like years ago, they guested on Harmontown when I was listening to Harmontown. And then Blank Check, the people guested on the Slash Filmcast, which I was listening to. And I was like, hey, this sounds like a better movie podcast. So then I went to that. So yeah, it's, that's how I discover other podcasts. Yeah.
Speaking of which, if everybody wants to have me on their podcast, I'm happy to jump on. Because it is like the greatest way. Like, we still get people coming and find this podcast and they say, because I always message people whenever they support us on Patreon and say like, hey, how'd you find us and all this stuff? What kind of stuff do you want from us? And so many people would be like, oh, I just heard you on Triple Click. It's like, oh, that was a while ago. I think I was on like half an episode once, but it turns out just guesting on another podcast is like the main way to like keep this circle rolling. I was going to mention Blank Check, of course, too, because like I watched their new series where they're covering directors is they're doing Bob Fosse, who did a lot of musicals, and I didn't really have much experience with him. I was kind of like, sure, I guess I'll listen to this series, Blank Check. But this is so basic, and I apologize, but they announced that Lin-Manuel Miranda is going to be their guest for their next episode covering All That Jazz. And I was like, all right, I want to really dive into that episode, and so I should check out one of these films, and it seems like All That Jazz is the Bob Fosse film to watch, and so I watched it a couple days ago. I just had this moment of like, why don't I take more recommendations? Why don't I watch more movies that people recommend? Because there's a world of film that I am not exposed to, because All That Jazz rocked my world. Like the way that film builds up till the ending, I was so damn into it. Have you guys seen All That Jazz?
No, but I should. I do.
I should before this Sunday.
It's free on Tubi. So there it is.
On Tubi.
Yeah, and it's Roy Scheider from Jaws, And like the way it starts out, it's like, is this even a musical? What is this? It's just about this kind of tortured artist and his life and his struggles. And then I remember we paused it at the halfway point and talked about like, where do you think this movie's going? And neither of us had any idea. And then it was like the most interesting possible second half to a movie. And they just cram musicals down your throat in the most interesting lens possible. So I loved it.
Did you see, while we're on Blank Check, did you watch the Little Prince, like, his snake dance compared to Michael Jackson?
Yes.
We all do that?
Yes.
We immediately paused and went and looked this thing up.
So, Leo, apparently Michael Jackson, it's been rumored that not only was he a composer for some songs in Sonic 3, but that he got a lot of his moves from this Bob Fosse dance for Little Prince. Is that the name of that? Mm-hmm. And it's just like Bob Fosse in the desert dancing, but you go and watch it, it's like, oh, these are clearly all of Michael Jackson's moves from like the early 70s, and clearly Michael Jackson's just a fan. And the funny thing is, in All That Jazz, in the final number, there's this move that they do to the camera, and I think it's Thriller, where they just 1-for-1 take that move as well. So it's fun tracing that stuff back. Cody Umbargar. Do you think you've ever had the best Umbargar you're ever going to have in your life? Anyways, but Cody writes in and says, hey, happy 1,000 days of MinnMax. If that's true, that's amazing. If you've done the math, that's unbelievable.
Yay.
We should have done more.
No way to confirm or deny.
1,000 days is a lot of days. We should have conquered half the internet by now. Ian T. Clark writes in and says, my daughter and I love chips and salsa. All right. But we don't like chunky salsa. In fact, we'll put it in a blender before eating it. Are we okay? I get it, Ian. I mean, I recently got over my fear of chunky salsa because that was a deep fear. But there's no shame here. You eat food the way you want to eat it. I totally understand blending salsa.
Yeah. No, if you have a way to improve it for your own taste, hell yeah.
All right. Beto Q92. Howdy, M&Ms. When I was young, there was a strength mini game in Star Fox Adventures that I could not complete. It was so hard, I brought my GameCube to a family party and had everyone try it, but to no avail.
Would this be like push the button really fast? Like, is that what the mini game?
I don't know. I wonder. Yeah, if anyone knows.
That's what they had strength mini games in like Mortal Kombat, where you just have to push it unbelievably fast.
Test your might. But look at the like this family party. I hope there's like adults there, just like estranged uncles was like, Unky, Star Fox Adventures, tap the button. This is my own headcanon for Beto's question. But anyways, Beto's
why the R-Wing? What is this?
This looks like it was formerly called Dinosaur Planet. Anyways, Beto says, now when I play it, Cakewalk, why could no one in my family around 2003 press the A button faster than the dinosaur? Do you have any questions, or do you have any games that were impossible when you were... Do you have any questions about my experience?
I'm wondering if they played it on emulator or anything.
Yeah, but they're wondering, do you have any games that were impossible when you were young, but now they're completely a breeze?
I couldn't beat the last level of Simpsons Hit and Run as a kid, except with cheats, and I tried so long, and then I did it on stream not too long ago.
I was there.
Yeah, that's right. It was like second or third try I beat the last level.
Mm-hmm.
I was prepared to go all night until I beat it, but it was a breeze.
Nice.
Well, not a breeze. I was really good, and I don't want to undersell that.
Well, yeah, your skills are a breeze. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of like being me.
Going back to like old Game Boy games are like surprisingly like I breeze through them now because it was my first console, right? So I was struggling with like Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins.
Yeah.
And I think like in late high school, I found a copy of it at like a secondhand game shop. And I beat it in like one sitting in like 2 hours. And I was like, why was this so hard when I was a kid? And I'm looking forward to having that experience again when the Ninja Turtles collection comes out. Because I played that Game Boy Ninja Turtles game so much. And I'm wondering if I play it now, if I'll just breeze through it and with no problem.
Probably, yeah. Aaron T says, hey crew, the interview with Pixar's Tasha Sonart that you did on your channel got me thinking about the good old days of 6 out of 10 licensed games. Where's our Coco 3D platformer or John Wick third-person shooter? What killed licensed video games like movie tie-ins?
Mobile games.
Budget. It's so much more expensive to make even a sort of 7 out of 10 game now than it was back then.
Mm-hmm. Is there an argument for the last big movie console release of a movie tie-in game, Jumanji: The Next Level? Because remember they made that weird game?
There's a one based on that Pets game, the Super Pets.
Oh, is there really?
Yeah, it looks like Star Fox. It's like an on-rails shooter for consoles.
Oh, I'm kind of interested in seeing that thing. Leo, you look struck by that Jumanji thing. Is that too old, do you think?
I'm wondering. I hadn't heard of that game.
We streamed it.
I remember Avatar being the end of that era, but certainly there's been a few outliers since.
Yeah. I really want to play that Avatar game in 360. I think we talked about this last week, but anyways. But yeah, thanks for listening to the interview with Pixar's Tasha. Also, Kyle, thanks for listening to that one.
Yeah, great interview. You got a surprising amount of like Toy Story lore out of her. Like confirming what material he's made of and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Wait, what was... I haven't listened to it yet. What's the answer to Woody's head?
Oh, he's made out of plastic. In Toy Story 4, they confirm he's made out of plastic.
Because someone steps on him at some point.
Yeah, no, in Toy Story 4 it happens. Yeah, but I was so shocked when that happened. It's like, he's made out of what? His name is Woody. But I think it's maybe a connection to like the old marionette early days of Woody's design that maybe I was connecting it to too much. But
can I take this moment? I've been meaning to do this for years. Can I spoil something about Kingdom Hearts 3 for everybody? Is that okay? Does everybody mind?
Heads up,
take my
listeners. Yes, you may.
I've always I don't know. I thought so. When you get to the Toy Story world in Toy Story 3, Hanson,
I watched the full
there,
cutscenes.
Right, you press the button to go there, and a super incredible pre-rendered cutscene happens that looks like an unannounced Final Fantasy game that never released.
Yeah.
It's incredibly expensive. It's like Kojima making commercials levels for Metal Gear Solid.
It's whatever,
4
versus Rex or Vernon Rex or whatever it's called.
Okay, so you're familiar with this? You know about this?
I watched the whole
Okay,
cutscene.
I wanted to make sure you saw that because that was it's
Wait,
basically
keep going. I don't know anything about it.
So it's like this crazy pre-rendered cutscene that looks like a Square Enix game. And then what it basically does is it pans back and you realize Rex was watching it on TV.
Right.
And it's all context for the non-familiar toys that are going to exist in that level. They're all based on this video game that came out within that alternate universe of Toy Story 3 and Kingdom Hearts 3. And it's just it just really threw me off and surprised me. And it's if you go look at the cutscene, it's this is in the middle of Kingdom Hearts. They spent so much money on this thing for it to just be I don't know, an Easter egg borderline, I guess you could say. It's weird.
And this is especially weird as somebody who hasn't played much of Kingdom Hearts, but knowing things or two about the lore. But Verum Rex is the name of it. And it gets especially weird because it seems like it's going to be a big component of things moving forward. Is that Verum Rex, which is inspired by the original version of Versus 13, which is really a bizarre rabbit hole to go down. But then what blows my mind is hearing how, from Tasha's perspective at least, initially Pixar didn't really want to be involved or have worlds in Toy Story 3, and she had to convince them to let this happen. So it's if she didn't convince the the higher ups at Pixar that Toy Story should be a world, then how would Verum Rex have been incorporated into Kingdom Hearts for such a big component now? It's interesting.
I don't know.
That's a rabbit hole. We apologize. Philly Eatsteak has another rabbit hole question. Hey crew, which is officially cooler, motorcycles or helicopters? All right, we're all going to say it on the count of three. Motorcycles or helicopters? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Helicopters.
Motorcycles.
All right, Leo, thank you for choosing the correct side. Motorcycles are better than helicopters? You guys high?
Why name one reason a helicopter is cool?
They hover?
They don't fly through my neighborhood making loud ass noises that scare me and my family.
They don't?
Motorcycles.
I think that's all
They happen to not be in
do.
my neighborhood. Motorcycles are in my neighborhood.
It's helicopters are rich people's bullshit. Motorcycles.
Neither of them are cool.
What? Helicopters are cool?
It's would you rather watch a motorcycle or a helicopter scene in a movie? Motorcycle every time.
Would I rather watch Mission Impossible 2 or Mission Impossible Fallout? Fallout. Thank you.
Mission Impossible 5 has a motorcycle scene in it that's one of the best chases in the series.
I guess that's fair.
That's true.
But I don't, Leo.
I mean, you look cool riding a motorcycle and you can jump off and do acrobatics. A helicopter, you're just
it's
sitting
the
there,
person who's
with your back
cool in a
straight.
helicopter isn't even the person driving it. There's just, it's every helicopter scene is just there's just a pilot who never talks.
Yeah, this isn't about who's cooler driving it. Just I think as a vehicle, what's cooler. And there's no doubt a helicopter is cooler. I mean, Leo, I don't care for the snobbery where neither are cool. If I said hey man, you want to come over and go for a helicopter ride? You'd be hell yeah, that's cool. You're cool. Let me kiss you.
I think that's a different question.
You don't think you would think that's cool. If you got to go on a helicopter ride, that's a good frickin' day, man.
Are you getting a tattoo of a motorcycle or a helicopter? Which one makes you cooler?
Well,
motorcycle.
I think, could it be the Yoshi helicopter from Yoshi's Island?
No, that's definitely cooler than either.
Okay, that's tricky.
Yoshi, a nerd, he turns into a car and a helicopter. He actively avoids motorcycle because he knew he wasn't cool enough.
That's right. Oh, hang on. Janet's watching us live. Janet, you're supposed to not be thinking about games. But Janet says motorcycles, so I guess the answer is motorcycles. Chris Logan writes in and says, hello, Ben and the boys. Quick poll. Sorry. Strike me laughing from the record. It's just sometimes when I forget what questions I'm including and they have a dark turn, it makes me laugh. And that's a morbid sense of humor. Okay. All humor removed. Quick poll. Did Kobe Bryant's death and the circumstances surrounding it make you cry at any point? My theory is that Kobe Bryant's death made the most men cry in the world compared to any other celebrity death. I'm not even a big basketball guy, but a few stories and memorial services definitely got to me. I think this is such a great question. What celebrity death made the most men specifically cry?
JFK would have been up there, right?
Ooh, that's a good one. Do you think, okay, just men in particular, do you think more men were emotionally gutted by JFK or Kobe? Because
I guess they're just more people now. You know, it's like the outreach is bigger where people would find out. But JFK to me feels, I mean, as someone who was not alive nor really that emotionally affected by either.
Here we go. Here we go.
JFK? Yeah, I don't know. MLK?
Yeah.
I'm curious both what is the most in numbers and what is the most percentage-wise.
Right.
Because I have only cried at one celebrity death in my life, and that was Harris Whittles.
Oof.
Which was so young and so out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I thought the question was going to be, has a celebrity death ever made you cry? And Leo and I we talked about this at some point, but Harris Whittles was like a celebrity death that really caught both of us, speaking for Leo, like caught us off guard and was like, whoa, that guy, I feel like I knew him. You know?
Just from podcasts.
Yeah, and I imagine percentage-wise that would be up there.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm sorry, percentage of people who know him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe that's
totally
projecting.
Is Jesus a celebrity?
Oh,
he's kind of the first celebrity.
No one.
Well, his tears were
outside
undone.
the local area would even know about Jesus.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
They didn't have phones.
He also came back.
No, but like not at the
cry
time.
every Good Friday, and I have a great ass Easter. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
So he's back.
He's back. That is tricky. All right, full pivot. Mick Crack Kenway writes in and says, "Howdy, Min Cats." That's us. I just wanted to weigh in on predicting punchlines with an instance when it's always okay. My family does Christmas crackers every year, and they have really pun-heavy jokes inside. We are always trying to guess the punchline specifically to predict how bad the pun will be in these Christmas crackers. I'm going to give you one example, but why not make it a game? I'll give you a Christmas cracker joke, and you try to guess the punchline. All right, just really okay, Leo, what do you think the punchline is for this Christmas cracker joke? What do you get when you cross a snowman with a vampire?
Snowman and vampire. Cold-blooded.
I guess everybody can jump in. We need the hive mind for this one.
Yeah, anyone's welcome.
Yeah.
Cold snap your neck.
No, snap, not so much.
Frostbite.
Hey, Leo Vedder!
You did it.
The king of comedy.
Gave it away.
There we go. Hey, who is damn it, I blew it. Maybe not though. Who is Santa's favorite singer?
Elton John.
Elton John.
Very close. Very close. Elvis Presley, everybody. Okay.
Elvis Presley.
That's maybe a better way to phrase it. Why are pirates great?
They just are.
There!
Yes.
Way to go.
We can do it.
Love it. What do you call a reindeer who can't see?
Blind deer.
Come on, Kyle, grow up, dude.
I don't know why that made me laugh, because it doesn't even make sense.
No idea.
Oh, yeah.
Use these jokes at home, everybody. Entertain your friends. Annoy them.
Wait, a blind deer? I have no idea.
What do you call a reindeer who can't see? No idea.
I have no idea /
I got
no
an
eye.
Yeah.
I see now. All right.
Hang on, we lost your good color.
Understandably.
Hey, what do you two like for question of the week?
I like the conversation about toxicity. They're good points for everybody on that.
Good.
I like that. I feel like we've answered that one before, but I didn't want to say it at the time. I like the scenario about listening to a podcast. I like the baseball stats. I think that's fun. Yakuza 8 led to a little discussion.
Baseball stats were great. Shouts out to that person for doing that.
Yeah.
That one had research.
It is true. The Star Fox minigame. I like motorcycles or helicopters. I like the jokes. Jacob, do you got? Are you leaning some direction for question of the week?
Let's see. Can I tell you the question I'm most mad that you didn't bring up?
Yes, please.
Why do people still remember boom blocks?
Yeah, somebody did ask that. I'm sorry I didn't include it. Do you want to answer that?
Great.
I kind of like the burger hypothetical.
Burger hypothetical solid. Burger hypothetical solid. Should we give it to baseball stats?
Let's do it. Baseball stats.
I mean, I think that's pretty damn impressive, and we talked about it.
Into that one.
Yeah,
Good.
Brandon Scott, congratulations. You just won Grim Fandango, one of the greatest of all time on PlayStation, thanks to I Am 8-Bit. Now it's time for something that we call Get a Load of This. We don't even need the jingle. We can just sing the jingle before we get to the jingle, I think. My money doesn't jingle. Hey, everybody, get a load of this. Somebody mentioned this on a podcast, and I was dumbfounded. It seems like one of those facts that I should know, but I'd never really thought about it. BBC has an article. The headline is, "More than half of your body is not human," says scientists. Human cells make up only 43% of the body's total cell count. The rest are microscopic colonists. Understanding this hidden half of ourselves, our microbiome, is rapidly transforming our understanding of diseases from allergies to Parkinson's. And there's a scientist here that says, what makes us human is, in my opinion, the actual combination of our own DNA plus the DNA of our gut microbes. Isn't that insane? More than half your body is not human. Oh, that's such a weird idea, but it's cool. Links below for all these fun little stories. Kyle, what do you got?
Okay, so there's this Twitter account called Reggie_800 that just shares like Nintendo facts, and they're sourcing this from Did You Know Gaming's Metal Gear Solid's cut content video?
Yeah.
Which features David Hayter, funnily enough. But there's this quote from Kojima in that video, apparently, or that they talked about in that video, that says, "A while ago, I played Pokemon Gold and Silver with my son. Until I played it, I didn't understand at all what was so interesting about it, so I wasn't very excited at first. Actually playing it, though, was a huge surprise. It was like I had no idea there was such a great game out there. I wound up finishing it twice. I was so addicted. I think Peace Walker works something like that. It's got a bit of Monster Hunter and Pokemon, and it's even got a bit of SimCity to it." I just really like the idea of Hideo Kojima like being obsessed with Pokemon Gold and Silver to the point where he played it twice.
Do you think that he had a tough time against that Miltank?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet he really struggled.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Jacob, now that you're here, what do you got?
Yeah, get a load of this. It's not particularly academic. It's just a TikTok that I've watched like 40 times in the past 2 days, which is just a guy doing an Ira Glass impression talking about the new Minions movie. That is like one of the best impressions I've ever seen. And it's just like, maybe it's very specific because you don't see a lot of Ira Glass impressions, but it's like, it is not only the voice, but the words he has chosen to say are just like, I don't know. Maybe there aren't that many This American Life heads out there, but like if you have listened to any of this show, it's almost uncanny.
I love it. There's a link below.
There's this podcast called Newcomers with Lauren Lapkus and gosh, I can't remember her name off the top of my head for some reason.
Nicole Byers. Nicole
Byers, thank you. And they had Patton Oswalt to talk about the Eternals, the Marvel movie, and he just had this little tangent where he did an impression of David Lynch trying to understand Return of the Jedi and explain to George Lucas why he turned it down. And it was like a good David Lynch impression. And I was like, this is for me. I don't know what else this is for. Because even Lapkus and Byers were like, oh, that's great. Thank you for that. Let's move on to the next topic.
Kyle, I hope you liked it. Leo, you got one?
Yeah, get a load of this. I had one locked away that I ended up talking about on Firescape, which was a Hitman video that's really interesting. So check out that podcast to hear more about that. So I have a backup Hitman video to talk about.
Hell
don't worry. It's called Silvio Caruso's Worst Day Ever. And what the player does is just uses every different way you can mess with one of the targets in Sapienza, Silvio Caruso, to just mess with him and to not like ever do the kill opportunity that comes from it.
No.
It's just to terrorize this NPC. So like you bring him flowers for his mother's grave and he follows you to the grave and asks for a moment of peace where you can garrote him or whatever. And the person, you can't throw the flowers. So the delivery guy player puts the flowers in a briefcase and then chucks the briefcase over into the ocean right in front of him. And he terrorizes Silvio with like thinking his mother's still alive, something you can do on the map, until he goes running towards his like escape plane, and then the guy detonates the plane because he'd already put a remote explosive on it so Silvio can escape. And then he calms down, he's doing his thing again, and the player takes a EMP gadget, a remote detonated EMP, and leaves it where he comes and finds it. He goes, picks it up, puts it in his pocket, then walks down later to like the virus you have to destroy on that map that he's working on, the super secret kill anyone virus, and you detonate the EMP pulse in his pocket and it destroys the virus. So he just like destroys it on accident. It's such a funny way to play with that game's rich mechanics. And this player, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, does amazing.
That's cute.
It's fun.
That's
funny.
cute. Hey, in the community Discord, Nick from Atlanta posted a Get a Load of This and the Get a Load of This channel, which is always flowing with interesting tidbits. They posted a tweet from Wesley LeBlanc, who we talked about was recently laid off by Game Informer by GameStop. And the tweet from Wesley just says, "I'm returning to Game Informer." This is a wild flipperoo, but as far as I understand it, what happened is John Carson, Jeff Akervik, Wesley LeBlanc were fired from Game Informer. We talked about it on the podcast last week, and we had them on Party Chat with our Patreon exclusive podcast talking all about the inside story. They were all fired. Jill Grote, friend of the show, who's been on this podcast several times, current Game Informer employee, Game Informer employee at the time, she hated the idea of the layoff so much that she decided to leave Game Informer. And as she left, therefore...
And that must be a really unrelatable feeling for you. Right?
Exactly, yeah. It's really bizarre, right? It's a weird similarity. But then her leaving left an opening, and then Game Informer's like, oh, could we just have Wesley back? And then Wesley LeBlanc was brought on back at Game Informer. But Wesley has a tweet, it's linked below, that's kind of just him working through his feelings. I'm like, hey, I like his post about it. I'm like, yeah, every complicated feeling you can imagine I have about this, but I guess I need a job, so I guess I'll take my old job back, even though they just, stabbed me in the back not too long ago. GameStop did, not Game Informer, but it's just a weird situation. Real twist and turn over there. But John Carson is still out in the wild, so if you have a job opening, throw it his way at John_Carson on Twitter there. All right. That's it for this episode of the podcast. Hope you all enjoyed it. Sorry it was a long one, but thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. All that fun stuff. Jacob Geller, you have a new video, do you not?
I do have a new video. It's called Every Zelda is the Darkest Zelda. It's doing quite well.
Nice.
So you can watch that on YouTube. And also, 2 plugs. I got new merch just as of yesterday, and it's really cool looking, and I don't think it screams YouTuber. So, if you want to get something that's hopefully not too embarrassing, you can get a cool poster or hat or a mug, stuff like that.
I love it. Leo, by the way, somebody at the community bike ride, I'm sorry, I forget who it was. They showed up wearing your t-shirt.
Oh.
And they said, is Leo here? I said, well.
He wouldn't be caught dead at this thing.
Yeah, how dare you? No.
Yeah, I invited him and he just laughed.
Yeah, it spat in my face. Leo, you got anything to plug?
YouTube.com/LeoVader. Check out my essays on there. New one coming next week.
Hell yeah. Love it. Also, Party Chat, again, it's our weekly bonus podcast. If you unlock that bonus podcast feed over there on Patreon, you can more than double the amount of podcasts from MinnMax every single week, and you help support us in a big way. This week, we took a lot of calls from the community, had a good time, talked about a ton of things. Sarah Podzorski was on. We talked about her history of JRPGs. We talk about some good behind-the-scenes dirt at MinnMax, and we talk about what we talk about in that episode, and this is a tease of that episode, is in that episode we tease some changes coming to MinnMax next week, which are going to be positive. So look forward to some fun announcements early next week here at MinnMax. Should be a good time, and there might even be some new Patreon tiers waiting for you as well next week, because we are getting so close to our Trek to Shrek. We really want to hit that goal. Also, heads up everybody, look out! Monday, July 25th at 8 p.m. Central is the next episode of Trivia Tower. This isn't any old episode of Trivia Tower. This is a video game trivia competition where it's going to be the MinnMax community versus the Giant Bomb community. Dan Reichert will be joining us as the co-host. And so the way it works, if you support us on Patreon at any tier, you get access to the Discord, which is where you compete in game trivia. We have codes for Escape Academy, TMNT, Shredder's Revenge, Klonoa. Whoa, we have a ton of game codes to give out and an Astro A40 headset to the last person standing, which, by the way, is worth hundreds of dollars. So we have all that, but the catch is that it's going to be the MinnMax community versus the Giant Bomb community. So if you're in the Giant Bomb Discord, you will get a link where you can compete in Trivia Tower for free. So here's how it works. If the last person standing in Trivia Tower is a Giant Bomb community member, Giant Bomb wins and Dan Reichert wins, and evil inherits the earth. But if the last person standing is a MinnMax community member, then MinnMax wins and good prevails. And we had to put some stakes on it. So it's kind of fun trying to come up with like, okay, what are the stakes for this? Dan's going to be a little bit of a jerk, but what's the right level? So if Dan Reichert and Giant Bomb wins, the last person standing for Trivia Tower, Dan is going to choose any video game he wants, no matter how bad, and I will have to stream through the whole thing on MinnMax's Twitch channel.
The whole thing?
The agreement was under 10 hours.
That's good. I'm glad you have that stipulation.
His
he would
original
have got you with that.
His original pitch is he's like, oh, you got to do a deepest dive. And I'm like, I'm not going to bring 3 other people on to play through this turd of a game for 10 hours, Dan. So a solo stream is going to be how we're going to handle it. And if we win, if MinnMax wins, then I'm going to have a bonus Twitch stream where we're going to design a t-shirt together that Dan Reichert then has to wear in every Giant Bomb and Dan Reichert stream and Fire Escape podcast for an entire week. Every recording, he has to wear this t-shirt. And I don't even know what the t-shirt's going to be. We're going to work on it together. Like, what is the most over-the-top t-shirt that you could make Dan Reichert
play
wear?
TKO, and then like the winner of that.
Oh, that's good. That's not a bad idea. So help Team MinnMax win, please. Prove that you know a thing or two about video games by supporting us on Patreon and competing in video game trivia this Monday, July 25th at 8 p.m. Central. Let us know if you have any questions about how that all works. And if you want to help support us in a big bad way, you can always become a game champion. Choose any game under the sun. We'll officially declare you the champion. Divorced Cougar, otherwise known as Mike M. They chose a game after my heart, and I'll assume Kyle's heart. Elite Beat Agents is what Divorced Cougar is officially the champion of.
Good choice.
Hell yeah. Tanner chose Snowboard Kids 2. They're officially the champion of Snowboard Kids 2, and they are very into it.
Exclusive?
Hell yeah. Jawarhello chose Borderlands. Interesting choice. No one had taken.
Classic.
Nickfilo is officially the champion of Viva Piñata. Now, we are getting to it. So next week, we're also going to have the big poll. I think it's going to be a combination of Patreon and Twitter for this poll to determine which game the community wants us to make bonus content about. Which game that people have chosen as a game that they're officially the game champion of. Out of all these options, we're going to have that poll. We're going to choose, or you all are going to choose which game is the last one standing. And then we're going to work with that person who championed that game to make a bonus piece of content all about that game. So it should be a fun time. All right, a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of stuff in the past. Thanks for sticking with us. Fun stuff on the horizon for MinnMax. Any help letting us hit that goal over there on Patreon is appreciated. All right, everybody feeling good?
Ooh, podcast. I can't wait to listen to this while doing dishes.
Hell yeah, it's going to be fun. Thanks so much, everybody. We appreciate it. Be good, have fun. Let's go.